Here we go, we commencing beginning the marching rock and roll to the mountain as we go up and down here. It is a hot day, gonna go hot. I think it's 15 degrees and we're gonna go turn our heads left and right. We got the future of the kingdom. For the empire, special salutation to the youth. Gotta send some salutations to the youth, and for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, all those bus drivers on the road, you know. When I see youth and children like that, I always think of my unpublished children's books, which have special themes such as firefighting, such as Hydroelectric Quebec here, Hydro-Quebec, and kind of simple, but integrates a little bit of those dance moves and a little bit of that simplicity, but depending, because it's from age 3 to 7, and they're hopping up and down and they're joyous. I'm joyous, and I gotta salute the daycare workers, you know, in the changing some of those diapers, you know how we do with the new protocol for the new 911 Dragon Army, total security, total service, total defense, which of course have been and will call for the implementation thereof to part of my dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, as I march to the mountain on my working out, training, exercising, which is part of my ongoing call to all willingly loving, you know. Pledge your legions. I gotta salute the bus drivers of the North American Collective for the 63, 10 provinces, 3 territories, 50 states, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, and gotta salute the youth once again, and you know, the daycare workers changing some of those diapers, along with the farmers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, and the truckers, the electricians, and all those who build the buildings, that is the construction workers. Special march to the throne, my king, the Pope, the Sun, to the mountain, Mount Royal, the headquarters of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. Special king is present but is absent, absentee landlord. Time for the republic, time for my dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, you know, here across the 63. 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories, and my fellow cousins there, aunties, my great Quebecer family here, the North American family, you know, because I consider Quebecers Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the 50 states family. And it's getting a little bit hotter. Once I get to the top, I'm gonna get this off or on the way, because I just put underneath shorts and short sleeves just in case, but it was 15, so I wasn't sure. If said when it reaches 20, usually 20 or plus, I put the shorts, I wear shorts, but now I'm wearing these kind of light, but whatever the case may be, it's gonna get hotter, perhaps even above average here. So I'm gonna commence, although financially stressed, I'm gonna begin with gratitude, you know. Always grateful, thankful. My rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, and look at those beautiful flowers there, how they are, you know. So that's all we got, and we got a little beautiful flowers there in the corner as well, kind of bushy, and that's what makes me a little bit joyous on my way to see these beautiful colorful flowers here. And these are beautiful whites. You get a little bit of tiny white flowers, but they're so luscious with the bush, and just embellishes the whole neighborhood, I find. And these smell really good. I wonder if you can make tea with them, you know, in a chamomile, in a post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic type of environment. I guess I would try. I would boil them, and you know, I'm in that World War III mode ever since 2019, October, November, when I predicted what's happening now. Back in 2019, October, November, you heard that correct, and I have proof. I predicted what's happening now across the North American Collective, across the North American Civilizational Complex. I had predicted an international conflagration, because I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. I have Asperger's, so that's my special interest, and that's pretty much 24/7 what I do, you know, 24/7 on the do, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. And here we're gonna check a little bit of that corner fridge, and that's what we're gonna get doing. This, I wish I could fill it up, you know. Wish I could bring it once and just fill the whole fridge and leave for somebody else there to pick up, but I gotta be grateful for that, you know. Here we got a little NDG food, Sunshine Food Depot, you know, which helps me because I'm financially precarious, you know. Unfortunately, in my community, Asperger's, Aspie's community, you know, we suffer from high unemployment, like 60-70%, you know. So that's what it is with that, and 60 and 70% unemployment. That is really high, you know, really high unemployment. Really high, way too high for the normal, way above normal, because again, there's a lot of these misunderstandings as conflagrated or considered as a mental illness, which is not. We certainly have our challenges. We certainly have roadblocks and challenges and things where we are, myself included, mediocre, average and so-so, mediocre, average and so-so. Of course, to get it with that, but I learned to manage my characteristics, you know, because it's been years and years and years, you know, since I've accepted it, because I was diagnosed. I was told, many people and many different citizens have told me, and you know, my special friend included, and over the years, but you know, I'm still waiting for a family doctor and can't get the paper money to get the consultations, you know, because I need a minimal support, because due to my special interests, you know, most of my special interests are consecrated on a daily basis with that ritualized like routine. So this routine, okay, makes us Aspies just super intense, super focused, super dedicated on those special interests, also known as obsessive interests. So my holy trinity is geopolitics, and of course geopolitics is that rock and roll with that, and that's how we gotta get doing with the rock and roll and geopolitics, and sports and fitness, dancing being my favorite sport, and of course I am part of the LGBTQ community. You know, you get that 50-50 androgynous, and special edition for the butchers, the bakers, Hydro-Quebec workers, the plumbers, the electricians, for the Empire or the Kingdom of the 63, the 50 states plus 10 provinces plus 3 territories. I believe my way to merge the North American collective best, and let's see if we can get drilling on the side here. We got the Hydro-Quebec. Thank you, Hydro-Quebec workers, for whom we got to get it on the march. You know, I'm including Hydro-Quebec workers because here all our electricity is zero pollution, zero emissions, zero pollution. And you know, I'm a bit moody, I guess because I'm sore and I'm still craving that massage therapy session, friends with benefits only, you know. I can't get that paper to get it on, but that's, I'm willing to give, you know, and receive. But I'm sore. I'm gonna take a bath once I get back, you know, from the XYZ, and that's how we gotta get it, you know, for the doers and the butchers, and gotta get it for the construction workers on the go, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. So the king is absent, you know. Vas-y, t'as plus de charge qu'à moi. Hein? Oh, tu t'en vas là? OK. Ouais, OK. That's why he was going the other way, and said I'm gonna let him work here. So what's cool about Hydro-Quebec is all our electricity doesn't pollute. So when you come to Quebec, all the electricity comes from the waters. I don't know how they did it, but they did a good job, man, and we gotta praise that, you know. That's how I was able, because of these dudes, workers, I was able to take my shower, take my coffee, you know. Otherwise I would be going in the river, man. Anyways, gotta see with that, and we're gonna go by that side, and that's why they're doing a little bit of that work there, and they're doing some good working, and I gotta salute them because I'm a big fan of Hydro-Quebec, so I gotta sing them some rock and roll. I'm marching for them to the mountain as well, you know. The king is absent. The king is absent. The king is an absentee landlord, and it's time for the republic, you know. It's consequently in the geopolitical sphere where we are today. My vision for merging Canada and the United States, Quebec, Canada, United States, because we got the special French here, which myself included, I gotta give some free lessons to Trump because it's a Dragon versus Trump special edition. So it is a Dragon versus Trump special edition, because I have been looking to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match ever since 2019 in October, November, because that's when the mistake was made of imposing tariffs on Canada. And you know, this Canadian Quebecer who was born in the USA 3 times, in West Point, I guess, military academies of the USA, you're reading a little bit of that George Patton, Through a Glass Darkly, one of my favorite poems, which of course one of my favorite poems is of course Through a Glass Darkly, which was written about reincarnations, and that's one of my favorite poems. And just like George Patton, I believe in reincarnations. I was born in the USA post 1776 thrice, 3 times. Once as a woman though, twice as a man. That's why you get the 50-50 now. You know, I am androgynous, ask me androgynous, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist. And of course on these steel toe boots, work boots, I gotta get it for the construction workers, the butchers, and Hydro-Quebec workers there. That's why we got the electricity, including me, to do the work, which I'm doing now, you know. Which I'm doing now, the work, of course. This is the work which I'm doing now, to do the work for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and the electricians, the plumbers. And I'm gonna go cross the street there. Gonna be prudent and gonna go across the street in a safe manner. Although it's safe if I turn my head left or right, but you know, you gotta be safe. Safety, security, liberty, my work, and I gotta give a shout out to Hydro-Quebec again, because that's what I'm able to do this video with clean, zero pollution, zero emission work. It's a special Dragon versus Trump edition. Having NWO challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border ever since 2018 to fight me in that boxing match. And I was born in the USA thrice, so we need to get a common passport, common currency, and we need to implement my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, in parallel and integrated with the CIT, the citizen integration theory, and the DFT, the democratic fusion theory, and that trinity of theories to be implemented across the North American collective civilizational complex as a philosopher, intellectual, and of course geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist. That's how I am, you know. But my neurodivergence has made me suffer, struggle a lot. I was depressed, suicidal. It's just, there was a lot of misunderstandings still about Asperger's, you know. It's not a mental illness. It's just a neurodivergence, you know, which makes me, makes me predisposed, you know, to this special interest. And that's how we gotta get doing, you know, with the special interest. And but bit more, you know, Hydro-Quebec workers there, I don't know, I gotta check how much they make an hour. Maybe they have some good salaries, but otherwise finance the public workers, Wall Street millionaires, being some massage therapy session because they need it and they deserve it more than me. And just gonna drop some garbage there and go around about. I gotta check here soon in the coming days, weeks, and ahead here to check a little bit what's going on with my getting a doctor, family doctor, because I got some scars, I got some issues on the skin. You know, I discussed it in the past, but I also discussed, I don't want to go into it now, but besides that, I'm pretty happy, joyous, and just a bit moody, you know. But hey, those Hydro-Quebec workers there working, and they're risking, there's some risk involved, eh? There's risk to the body, so I gotta march for them, man. I'm good now, you know. I'm good now, you know, so just finance them a massage therapy session instead. And what I gotta get doing towards the sun I go. And here from my neighborhood, we're gonna go on an adventure. We're gonna zig and zag, I guess, because, you know, some places, you know, I got that routine, and I go to the mountain often. My second home, Mount Royal, the headquarters of the empire, the kingdom, the dancing goddess, and the dragon kingdom, you know. Pledge your allegiance, legions, and pledge your allegiance, legions, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And that's what I gotta get doing on the love, you know, because sometimes it requires some loving and understanding. We cannot base everything on strength and force. So my meditation now, of course, because of my special interest, which is geopolitics, that is, of course, my special interest. And so now, consequently, I put the Hydro-Quebec workers with some salutations to them. Stay safe, get back home safe, relax and eat good and feast good and make some good loving, you know. That's my message to the collective, North American Civilizational Collective. And, you know, and give some charity if you can. Support a SASP artist athlete. androgynous, pansexual, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical, honest, and theorist, and see how my mind works now, because geopolitics is my main, of course, special interest. That is what I do on a daily basis. So geopolitics, the formulations of geopolitics, is of course something which I gotta get doing with that, and sometimes which I gotta get on the mindfulness with that. So that is something which of course it puts in the integral geopolitical complex and perplexities, and of course whatever it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing with that, man. Because the Hydro-Quebec is, of course, open for potential sabotage and espionage. So being that it's, of course, open for potential sabotage and espionage, that is a fact that was, of course, concluded in 2023 when somebody was actually arrested by the RCMP and several, of course, CSIS organizations. And that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get doing. So as I go, of course, all the way to the mountain, that's what we gotta rock and roll on that. And so we gotta get doing, you know, for the XYZ, and here we are for the North American Collective. We gotta get on the go with that, and so we gotta get it, man, because the essential elements, which of course can be for sabotage and espionage, you know, so those are consequently things which of course gotta be done and gotta be doing, and that's what we gotta get doing on the go. So that is what it is, man. And I think that now we're even more open to sabotage and espionage as we were in the past, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And the king is absent, you know. It's interesting that the king is gonna deliver a throne speech. I'm gonna check it and analyze it when I come back, but I guess my throne speech to my king, the Pope, the Son, my king, the Pope, the Son, my king, the Pope, the Son, and to all my willing, loving allies and armies, pledge your allegiance to our family, and let me hear the song of the children. That's more important than my noise. French or English, let's hear it. Oh, they're singing to the birds in French. It's good. It's a good labor for French. They gotta get it on that labor for the singing, and a little bit on that. Oiseau means bird, so see the birdie singing there. So that's what we gotta get on that birdie side of things, and that's a good song. And you know, I really love writing children's books, and I wrote a few, and some of my are musical, and they have a little bit of that musical characters in it with the birds. And I can write constantly. It's just that I wasn't able to afford, you know, the $500, the $500 to pay a literary agent for that, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get on that rock and roll, you know. So something which we gotta be doing, and which we gotta be praising, because here in French, we gotta make that continuance of the French language in Quebec. You know, in Quebec, we got to make on that continuing language on the French language. So that's how we got to continue making it, you know, the French language. And that's how we got to get doing with that. So we're going to get doing on the XYZ with the XYZ. And that's something which we got to be doing, you know. We just made it on the French language, and the king is absent here, you know. It's an absentee landlord. So it's time for the Republic. It's time for the Republic. I'm seeing that there's some elderly there, my elderly citizens, which I love to play on the elderly situation. And I played an important role, I guess, during COVID. Well, not just me, but hundreds and thousands of others, but because I was employed, of course. At the CHSLDs, and that's how we gotta get doing on that. And here they're getting a little bit of that exercise and get a little bit of that sun. Son, my Pope, the King, the Son, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get on that rock and roll. And Yeah, that was nice. That's what we gotta get doing with that. And so we gotta get doing, you know, something which we gotta be loving, I guess, you know. That's what I got, love and rock and roll. But my experience working with social facilities was really good. I liked especially giving food and nourishing, being of service. But unfortunately, after a probation period, there was decided, I guess, to not continue my employment, but it was an experience which I loved, you know. So that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get on that side of things, man, you know. And through all the suffering, all the scars, all the pain, survived COVID, survived being attacked by surprise, and here I am on this 27th of May, and my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food at home, got coffee, and I guess freedom is that. Freedom is that thing that you gotta earn through blood, sweat, and tears, and then you got the responsibilities, because now I'm in the public, not to commit any illegal acts, and certainly not violence, because I don't like violence, and I don't like violence. I'm weird. I can Aspies. The problem is there's associations with mental illness, which again, Asperger's is not a mental illness. Aspies can be pretty intense. Super focused, super concentrated, and maybe that can be a bit alarming, intimidating for some, and for some, you know. We've constituted a collective civilizational complex, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. So with the elderly, of course, my work. With the elderly, the work with the elderly was quite pleasant. And see, here we got the construction workers, and I'm willing to build the North American collective, and that's what we gotta get in, man. And so we gotta get doing with that, and sit here in the sun, man. I don't think you got it in you. Yeah, you gotta cross the street prudently, you know. You gotta cross the street prudently with that, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on that. Anyway, so back to my elderly. I guess we gotta salute, because they build, you know. They build the North American collective, or part of it, you know. The highways, the bridges, and civilization is a privilege. And here I gotta turn my head, you know, left and right before I cross the street, and that's what I gotta be doing, you know. Turn my head left and right, and stretch a bit my neck. I'm getting a bit on the sweaty side, so next stop for that water. Not here, but of course the elderly. That's what we're gonna get doing for the elderly and for the youth, you know. They're gonna learn some French and changing some of those diapers. That's labor. You know, that's I say we gotta put a new protocol for the Dragon Army and for the new 911 protocols for total security and total service and total defense, which they are, of course, to be implemented across the North American Collective, and that's what we got. Gonna wait for the green light. Hopefully it's gonna come soon. But these just have a good smell. These smell good, see? Yeah. Yeah, kind of like tea, chamomile a bit. Chamomile like. There we go. But still gotta turn your heads, because even if it's one way here, what if somebody comes very fast, the brakes are not able to respond on time, or they snap, they malfunction, or by mistake the citizen driver can press the accelerator. So these is ways to avoid accidents, you know. To avoid accidents, we gotta get a little bit of that prudence. Sometimes more, sometimes more. But point is that I'm being in the public. You know, last time on the video I calculated, you know, because that's kind of a typical ASPI way of communicating, or how the brain works due to these mutations. We certainly have our certain deficiency. We're less capable in certain things, while in other things we're not totally capable in such a way. So being that we're not totally capable in certain things of social interaction, or how we interact, or how we are socially, in other things we can excel and be pretty good in other things. But the verbal intelligence or mathematical intelligence is above average for ASPIs. I believe I'm there, but you know, sometimes depending on what exactly, because if I discuss certain things, it's gonna be a little bit different than discussing other things. However, when I discuss geopolitics, that is my kingdom, my realm, and my domain. And because I say, you know, the king is absent is basically a geopolitical statement, because of course it's the first time since 1977 when the king delivered the throne speech. Well, back then it was the queen. On my statement that the king is an absentee landlord, it's pretty much factual. That the king is an absentee landlord is pretty much factual. So unfortunately, due to our special interests, whatever those are, ASPIs, we tend to be so focused on a daily basis in those routines like rituals, that they of course take over our daily habits. So our daily habits, routines, are formed around those special interests. Whatever those special interests are, it could be somebody studying computer science, or working in computer science, or just computer science. It could be history, it could be transportation, stuff like that. Mine is of course geopolitics, and I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. So even to the point that I predicted what's happening now, you know. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. In 2019, October, November. In October, November, I predicted what's happening now, you know. So that is what it is, and that is well, we gotta get doing on that, and that's how we gotta get on that doers also, you know, because that's what we ASPIs do usually, either study, learn, or are involved in any of those special interests. Usually 2 or 3 special interests, where we are super focused, super dedicated, super intense. Mine is of course geopolitics, sports, fitness, and dancing is my favorite sport and fitness activity. And rock and roll for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters on the paint. We need some paint. How to go, you know, we simple. Sometimes complex. I put an X. I rock and roll, eh? That's when I rock and roll, I rock and roll. You know, that's what it is, and that's how we gotta get doing on that rock and roll side of things. And here I gotta be prudent. See, what if the brake malfunctions here, or what if the citizen presses the accelerators? I'm not in my temple room offset doing what I would have been doing, either rock and roll, maybe working out or dancing, or geopolitics. Because today I was supposed to leave at first. I said at 8. I couldn't help myself but do a few more hours of geopolitics, because I started around 7. I said I'm gonna do an hour. From 8 I said I'm gonna do another hour, and another hour finally. So I did 3 hours of geopolitical analysis, and of course I had to check what the news channels were saying in Concordium to King Charles III coming visit in Canada. which officially have the King of England as the head of state. The king is absent. The king is absent, and it's time for the republic. You know, it's time for the republic. It's time for the republic. It's time for the republic. So that's what we gotta get doing with that. That's what we gotta get doing with that republic. So it's time for the republic here, and that's what we got: the bus drivers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, and the doctors. Those changing some diapers, you know, in the daycare workers, changing some of those diapers. We got some labor. We got some work needs to be done, and me, my work now is doing this. Of course, pretty cool. My fellow cousins here of the Canadian complex, the North American civilizational complex, along with the senior citizens and the youth. The senior citizens, I guess, who built the highways, the bridges, all the North American civilizational complex, the 50 states, 10 provinces, 3 territories, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, that's 63. As I am calling, of course, for the fusion thereof in my dream, is fundamentally a public-private partnership for what I call the North American civilizational complex, of which the 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories are part of. So for the 63, the kingdom, for the empire. Creation of the Dragon Army for SSD only, security, service, and defense, integrated with all existing security institutions. Officially North American SSD, North American SSD Imperial Legion, or the SSDL, Security Service and Defense League, Legion. North America, but us, Canada, we're north. Through North Strong and Free, we gotta have some love. And my brothers and sisters in the US, they're south, right? So we're north, you're south. So we're gonna fuse the north and the south into this new complex, and we're gonna get total security, total service, total defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We're gonna do a census of the population, see who can serve in this newly found institutions. Is gonna have to be somebody who has lived in Canada for more than 7 years. So that's gonna be the principium to serve in either or the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, or the Dragon Army, the North American Security Service and Defense Legion, and the North American Integrated Dance League, to dance for the environment and environmental education in action. And even now, if I go check, as I did in my past videos, you see that when I go and inspect I'm just gonna go check one to see, because sometimes you check, and if they don't go in there, they're supposed to go in the recycling, what people throw, citizens throw, so, and it goes into it, they're throwing it into the garbage. So that is something which, of course, is problematic. It can be problematic because we have to do ourselves, our individual citizens, we have to do as individuals, we have to do it, and as the collective. So the individual has to do it, and the collective has to follow suit. And the collective. So as I cross here, I don't want to get in the way. Maybe I can cross by the side here. Anyways, I'm just gonna check here. First one. Let's see. Oh yeah, you see? Those are things that can go in the recycling. Some things I saw. So in each one I see, they're supposed to go in the recycling. So we need the DGA. We need everyone I check. There's things which should go in the recycling. So it needs education and action, because if we don't do it, right? If I don't do it, you don't do it, I'm gonna pass by the park. I'm gonna go around about it because I don't want to interfere, you know. Too much with the youth. They're gonna see, but usually they're friendly, and I love the youth. And see, what are you doing wearing that red? Hey, you red person. That's what I was told the other day. It's kind of cool because red is my favorite color. So I love the youth, and the SSD Dragon Army is for them, you know, for the 63 coast to coast, ocean to ocean, you know. And also, of course, all who come to join us, obviously all ALL who come to join us, all who come to join us, of course, all who come to join us in the collective, the North American Civilization Collective, all who come to join us in the North American Civilization Collective, the 63, 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories. So I'm gonna go get a little bit of that hydration. Feels good here when I work out, train, exercise, and always gotta get it on the side of the positive notes, because I survived a lot even if I don't have many friends, you know. Gotta do friends with benefits only, you know. Friends with benefits only is something which I gotta get that friends with benefits, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, and it's friends with benefits, you know. I live with my scars. I live with retrograde amnesia. I got memory loss. I just remember moving from a moldy place, basement, like a prison cell, and I was attacked by surprise, fell, hit my head, had a dislocated right arm, went to the Jewish general, was put on some meds. I was bloodied up. And remember moving, and complex of moving, and here we are. We're gonna get a little bit of that hydration, and gonna get that HYDRAT here. Hydrate, and that's all we're gonna get doing. HYDRAT. Gotta thank those who build the public workers, for me, for us, for the youth, especially for everybody. But summer's coming. And this, I gotta put it again into advertising here. I mean, because it's such a nice public park. I really gotta show it up again. Like, look at this park for the dogs. I mean, and look at this. Isn't it gorgeous? One of the best in Montreal. And this is where you can bring your dog. So always look. And here, you see, this is what I wanted to show as well. Here the recycling is possible. So you got these backs, you know, you got these, which you put the recycling in, and that's what we're gonna get doing with the recycling in the park, and that's for the garbage. So that's why we have to do it as individuals, you know, because if we don't put it in the recycling, it has to go in the recycling, and it doesn't go in the trash. So it requires our individual effort, you know. If I don't do it, you don't do it. If the children do it, the youth gotta be, of course, taught and educated to do it as much as possible. I might make a mistake, and I'm always never perfect in my recycling. I always can do. Sometimes my friend says, "Hey, you know, that goes in the recycling." I say, "Oh yeah, you're right. I'm gonna wash it, clean it, and you know, maybe that's the counterbalance." But meaning to say that it's always a constant thing, but we got a lot of work to do. That's why we have to get the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army. So, to be honest, the king, hereditary king, is nobody's born a dragon, you become one. That's the motto of the Dragon Army. Nobody is born a dragon, you become one. Nobody is born a dragon, you become one. Nobody is born a dragon, you become one. Nobody's born a dragon, you become one, you know. I'm not born a dragon. I became there after I moved, and after I came out of my I like that red wife, sing rock and roll, but queer, queer, I'm good to go. I'm a centrist though, pro-labor and love, universal revolutionary centrist. My centrism is tied hand in hand with my Trinity of Theories for the North American Collective, and of course I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, but my centrism is tied hand in hand with my CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, DRT, Debt Refusion Theory, and Democratic Fusion Theory for the total S, SD. That means total security, total service, total defense, a public-private partnership my dream is. So as much as I can know all the exterior factors, I pretty much stay on the neutral side until we get the establishment of the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions of the DGA, the Dancing Goddess Army and the Dragon Army. You know, that's what we gotta get doing with that. So here for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, the 2.5 million people. Montreal is the big second most populated in Canada, 7th or 8th in North America, even when we include Mexico. Mexico is the biggest. Mexico City is the biggest, most populated city in North America, and it's top 5 in the world, Mexico City. So they're number 1 in North America, 7th or 8th is Montreal. So we're basically like a small country, 2.5 million people with the, well, when we enlarge it with the metropolitan area, then it gets even bigger. So then you get 4.5 million. So that's like half of the population of the province of Quebec. It gets a lot. So, but it's an island, big, surrounded by a big river, as you can attest and see. So see how my brain now switches. Now that I see that this highway, it goes north, it goes south. It goes south, it goes north. I like that green, put some red dragon on it for the DGA. It goes north, it goes south. My brain switches to putting this in an integral meditative state. How we are potentially open for sabotage and espionage. Of course, in case of an outward declared war by even underworld international organizations, which can be sponsored by antagonistic foreign states, by antagonistic foreign states, you know. So that is something which can happen, and something which can, of course, congregate, and something which can happen on the basis, you know. That is something which I am always for the North American Collective. So as much as I can speak on other conflicts, I have predicted what's happening now back in 2019. And of course, we are open now on the 27th of May for potential sabotage and espionage. Of course, where supply chains, of course, all the truckers carrying the wheat, the bacon, the cheese, the butter, which is, of course, loaded and unloaded in the big warehouses across the North American Collective. Got to give salutations to the warehouses, the dock workers, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, the firefighters, and we gotta get for that. King is absent. Motto of the Dragon Army is nobody is born a dragon. So not a fan of hereditary monarchy, and that gotta go. It's time for the Republic, you know. It's time for the Republic, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with XYZ, and that's what we gotta get doing on the love, you know. I gotta give some salutation to the firefighters as I go to my second home, the mountain. Gotta get it for the firefighters. Somebody finance them a massage therapy session, you know. Massage therapy session. Massage therapy session, and public workers there doing a little bit of that labor, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing here for the youth, man. They gotta get on that youth, you know. So that is what it is with that, and we gotta get it on the love side of things, and we gotta get it on the love here. Oh, no fighting, no violence, playfulness. I don't like violence, so I guess they're playing, but I guess the teacher makes the decision. But I don't like violence. I don't like violence. I've lived my own trauma, was attacked by surprise several times, and had a dislocated right arm, you know. And that's what it is with that, and that's what it is with that. Had a dislocated right arm, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing, man. My dislocated right arm, when I left to the hospital, I was bloodied up and hit my head to the concrete. And if I go back 7, 8, 9 years, It's like a fuzziness. If I go back 10 years, kind of starts to be blurred, and then 11 years is like a blackout, you know. Blackouts, retrograde amnesia. So memory loss sometimes comes back, you know. Sometimes comes back, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And it comes back, you know, for the XYZ. And sometimes it comes back, you know. Sometimes it comes back, you know. Sometimes it doesn't. All my life is pretty much what I know before moving. My life is just from high school graduation, some letters dating from 2007, 2003, whatever the case may be. And that's what it is with that. And that's how we gotta go. So that's what we gotta get doing with that. And here we go. Here we are. Something which we gotta go with that. And something which we gotta get on the transmission side of things, and we gotta get it on the do, and gotta get it for the butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and the grocery store clerks, and all those involved, you know, in the production, distribution of food. And that's how we gotta get that rock and roll with that. And here's a nice house to go with it, and here's a nice house which I can split, you know, 50-50, my anonymous friend. And if I make a million, I'm gonna give 50%, and that's it with that. So I guess I'm gonna discuss a little bit about Asperger's just quickly before I get into the DRT, because that's the more important thing. So about 45 months ago, I've accepted, you know, because I'm different, and my difference, of course, is part of this difference of living with Asperger's, which is not a mental illness. So I'm gonna watch the car here. Sometimes they stop, you know. So basically, sometimes they don't stop, they just cross the street, and if it's one way, they go up, you know. So you gotta be careful when you cross the street. That's why I always say in my videos, just turn your heads left and right at least 2 times. Preferably 3 times, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, preferably, but at least once for sure. Like I said, you never know, and that's how we gotta get doing with that. So it's the added responsibilities of being in the public, and my safety, security, my liberty, somebody else's, with my weirdness, my strangeness, you know, my Aspie-esque, being an Aspie, meaning somebody who's neurodivergent and has Asperger's. And it's these things which make us different, you know. Our brains have these mutations, and so we see the world differently. We process certain information differently, and the way we communicate socially can be awkward, and a little bit sometimes we can seem direct and rude. Direct and rude. Rude and direct, and that's what it is with that. So we can be rude and direct, and sometimes which things which we have to, you know. We have to take into consideration and take into account, you know, that on a daily basis, the lives which we live, and the majority of the population are 99.56%, because us, Aspies, we're less than half of a percentile. We're 0.44%. 0.44%. 0.44%. So not even 1%. Not even half of a percentile. So there's not a lot, and there has been more and more acceptance about neurodiversity and neurodivergence in the population. We certainly have our strengths. We certainly have our strengths when it comes to those special interests. Usually I'm gonna watch it for my fellow citizen, because I think it's better if I just circumvent, do the assessment of the situation, and yeah, not to interfere, or I guess auntie, using a crutch, auntie, my fellow auntie, aunts, my cousins, auntie, all my family here, I guess, because you're my family. So, you know, that's what it is. And sometimes we're dysfunctional, you know. I was, I guess, rejected and cast aside, and misunderstood and lost jobs, unemployment opportunities, and here I am working in my own way, and I guess very few rival me in the arena of geopolitics and dancing, rock and roll. That's my holy trinity of special interest. At certain things, yes, I'm mediocre, and again, due to these special interests which take up our routines, these special interests which take up our routines, of course, make us in a way which we are very different from others, and that's why we have to always make an effort to build bridges, you know? To build bridges. So when we build those bridges, is something which we gotta be doing. So building those bridges, when we build those bridges, we have to build them in a consequential manner. When we have to build the bridges, is something where we have to be on the alertness. And I am hypervigilant. I'm somebody who does not like violence at all, but I live with hypervigilance because I lived my trauma, and like I said several times, I was attacked, and I got to retrieve those documents, and I was attacked by surprise and a few years ago, and I guess that's why I got strong, I guess, and I started working out, because after that surprise attack, I moved. I was depressed, suicidal, and I crossed Canada coast to coast, 2017, and that event really made me change my whole life, That event really made me change my whole life. I changed my whole life, and I started working out, training, and exercising, and after I started working out, training, and exercising in 2017, I turned my head left and right here. You see how we're going downhill, and uphill here? So that changed my whole life. For you, I guess. For some, I guess, yeah. That's my King the Sun there, the Pope. My Pope, the King the Sun. And so I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017 in summer. In August, I went to BC, British Columbia, Vancouver, and then of course went in Halifax, from British Columbia. Came back in September, went to Halifax, Nova Scotia. So it was summer and end of summer. End of summer came back like kind of a day before the solstice, the changing to the spring equinox in 2017, summer 2017, mid-August and mid-September. Went respectively to Vancouver by bus. That was crazy. 3.5 days just to go and 3.5 days to come back by bus across Canada, and that's made me come out of being depressed and suicidal, and I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. I established a strong esprit de corps, my fellow Canadians, who I consider families, and my brothers and sisters in the 50 states. So for the 63, so the 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories. So that's the 63. And of course, crossing Canada made me realize, how many things I have to see and to do and to see. And I'm still doing them. I'm still seeing them. I'm still doing rock and roll every day. And most of my work dates from post that period, because I was depressed, suicidal before that. And then I started working out, training, and exercising. I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. I've written hundreds of pages on geopolitical theory, and of which I have hundreds of videos online. Hundreds and hundreds of videos online. That is just hundreds of videos online which I have, and I gotta watch it for the cars. Sometimes they come down or they come on the wrong side, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. And so we gotta get doing on the XYZ, and so we gotta get doing on that. That's what it is with that, and that's what it is for the go. That's what it is for the go, and that's what it is for the now. And so going to Mount Royal. Well, actually here where Westmount is one of the peaks of the mountains system called Mount Royal, but it's called Westmount. So again, 2017 changed my life, and I've written tens of thousands of pages of mostly political philosophy or analysis, geopolitical theoretical analysis, and I can name some of them, which are more for the concrete, for implementation of policies and programs, such as the new 911 North American Collectif protocols for SSD, total security, total service, total defense, and such as, of course, the other ones being the formulations for the beginnings of what is now known today as the total mobile defense theory, TMDT, 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 and when we add the fifth letter to the four-letter acronym, TMDT, total, T for total, M for mobile, D for defense system theory, that is, theory, total mobile defense theory, TMDT. When we add TMDT, total mobile defense theory, when we add DS, that means that it's becoming a system. That means that my theory, the total mobile defense theory, is put into practice, and there it becomes the integration with all existing public and private institutions and organizations for total security, total service, total defense. So that is also part of the new 911 Dragon Army total SSD protocols. So those are several protocols which are manifested as the Dragon Army Initiative, or the North American Imperial SSD Legion, the Security, Service, and Defense Theory, to be created for the 10 provinces, 50 states, and 3 territories. For the fusion thereof, for the public-private partnership, the creation of a common passport, and we have to do a great census and inventory. And I gotta build new servers and new monitoring systems, all cameras, webcams, much as we can all over. And I gotta know everything. I gotta know everything that's coming in and coming out, and everything that's coming in and coming out, and everything that's coming in, everything that's coming in and coming out. Here, I'm gonna go by the other side here, There you go. That is what we gotta be doing, Yeah. 5 years. Gone. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna wait a bit for the water. Usually a minute. Oh yeah, that felt good. So, Asperger's, our brain has mutations. So these mutations make us that our special routines, daily routines usually are pretty, all those, I'm an individual aspect, so I speak for myself, but usually they're pretty standard operational. So even myself, for the past 7 years, I've been having this routine that I'm going to establish from me coming out of my depression and being suicidal. And finally, about 45 months ago, I've accepted, I have this neurodivergence, Asperger's. So an Asperger's brain has these mutations, right? There's no medication. You cannot medicate it away. It's not a disease. It's not something which can be treated in such a manner. The problem is that we can't neglect certain things around the home or around the house. We can neglect certain things. When it comes to other things, is of course something which we have to be doing. So meaning that we gotta get doing on the go, and that's how we gotta get doing, 20. So that's what we gotta get doing on the XYZ, and that's how we gotta get doing, So it's something which it's something which we gotta be proficient in, which we are proficient, or we are very excellent, or we excel in, usually the special interest. And again, mine is geopolitics, and to the fact that I have proof of work that I predicted what's happening now in 2019. But most of my work I dated restarted from 2017, and then in 2020, between February and March, I also had COVID. So I also survived COVID, and my will, of course, is to build, before I forget to mention, on the Canadian-US border, because it's Dragon vs. Storm Special Freestyle Edition, the North American Imperial People's Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the Harbor Ball. To be 11 times bigger than the Harbor Ball. Where the Harbor Ball was played, also known as the Mercedes. So it changed, the Louisiana Superdome changed the name several times. So once it was the Caesars Superdome. Before that, it was known as the Louisiana. Now it's known as the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, where one of my favorite Super Bowls, the Harbor Ball, aka Bro Bowl, Harbor Ball, Blackout Bowl, is several nicknames of the same Super Bowl, where my 49ers lost by 3 to the Ravens, by 3 points, still a loss. So of course, I want to build, help other construction workers who rock and roll on the Canadian-US border, and to serve for sportis in perpetuities. Sportis in perpetuities, that means to have sports in perpetuity, 24/7 sports, to have 24/7 sports, and to build this biggest Coliseum, sports arena, sports complex, fitness sports arena 24/7. Like they're doing some sports there. Be safe, play in the streets, but watch for the cars. That's my only concern, because youth need to exercise. It's fun. I don't know what they were doing exactly, because I kind of seen a little bit blurred, but that's how we gotta get doing. I gotta check. I got a prescription, but I can't pay too much for the eyes, I got it on the prescription, so I got it doing with that, and that's how we gotta get doing. So it's something which we gotta be evaluating, and we gotta be putting into the Concordium. And back to what I was saying, the point is that I will to build this North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, on the Canadian-US border. So this will serve as the biggest sports arena ever. This will serve as the biggest sports arena ever. The biggest sports arena ever. That's what we're gonna get doing on that, and so we're gonna get doing, you know. So this North American People's Imperial Coliseum will serve, and where me and Donald Trump is gonna be having the inauguration event. It's gonna be me fighting Donald Trump, because I have been and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border ever since Donald Trump imposed, you know, tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Ever since Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel back in 2018 in March. That's when I first started challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match, and gotta watch it there, a little bit of that prudence when you back away here, because it's a one-way. So gotta give someone those flowers, I guess. Flowers aside, the body first, eh? So we're gonna build on the Canadian-US border the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, aka the Coliseum of North America, and where me and Donald Trump are gonna fight in a boxing match to inaugurate it. And it's gonna be 11 times bigger than what's now known as the Caesars Superdome. Used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, or before it was known as the Louisiana, I believe. So it had 3 names. It changed names just like I changed names. Only once me, nobody's born a dragon, turned that A into a no. Still need that paper money to finance the name change. You know, to finance that name change, and still that's what we gotta be doing with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, you know, for the go, and we gotta get doing with that, you know. So something which we gotta be doing on the now, you know. So something which I gotta be transported of. Turn my heads left and right, and left, right. See? That's right here, we got it. And so we gotta get doing with that, and I love that garden. How it's put with the rocks going sedimentary like that. It's pretty cool. So we're gonna build that. We're gonna build a Forgotten Goddess temple. Forgotten Goddess temple. Yeah, I did say goddess. G-O-D-D-S-S. I got a goddess at I got a goddess at G-O-D-D-S-S because I credit me surviving coronavirus. I got 3 vaccines, triple vaxxed here. Back, I had it in 2020, between mid-February to mid-March. I was really thought I was gonna die, eh? It was like death, pestilence, and disease. It was like death, pestilence, and disease. When I say death, pestilence, and disease, it sounds like a hardcore death trash rock and roll, hardcore death trash metal song. Death, pestilence, and disease. Come on, we squeeze. Yeah, it sounds like that, but that's how I felt. I really thought that was my last chapter. Somehow it wasn't. I survived that, and I got triple vaxxed, and I am calling all. But I am calling, of course, to support the continuing of the public hygienic protocols, you know. Public hygienic protocols, you know. Public hygiene. The protocols for the public hygiene, you know. The public hygienic protocols, you know. The public hygienic protocols. I think it does us some good to maintain them in the public sphere, to maintain them to the best of one's ability in the public sphere, you know, to maintain them the best of one's ability in the public sphere. That's all we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get doing, you know. So in the public sphere, that's what we gotta do, maintain the protocols, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, you know. So we gotta get doing on the love side of things, you know. So it's something which we gotta be doing, you know. So they're gonna get on that XYZ and done the XYZ and gotta get on that love side of things and gonna get drilling left and right and get it on the boo and so we're gonna get passing the streets safely. Super important, you know, to safely cross the streets. So back to what I was saying, of course, is something which we gotta be mentioning is the fact that I encourage all to keep the protocols, public hygienic protocols, which started during COVID, you know? When you go to the teller, to the bank machine ATM, you press the numbers, for example. It could be germs, bacteria, microbes, you know? So it's something which I think in the public we should be doing. And even when you go grocery shopping, and there's a new wave of COVID now. There's a new variant mutation. Imagine pandemic starts again this summer. There's a new COVID variant, supposedly in China and India. I don't know if it reached us, but wow, can you imagine now because in spring another big COVID wave out of nowhere? What if it keeps mutating and just waves after waves after waves, man? Can you imagine that? We can't rule it out, just like my Holy Trinity on COVID has been, is, and will be this. So first and foremost, I don't know what caused COVID. Well, actually, correction. First and foremost, I believe that COVID, the coronavirus, was caused from snakes to human beings. From snakes to human beings. Meaning that it was transmitted from snakes to human beings. He was transmitted from snakes to human beings. So meaning that it was transmitted from snakes to human beings, as it's called zoonotic. So basically it could be another animal. I believe it was snakes. It could be, of course, snakes. It could be something else. It could be snakes. It could be birds, fowl creatures, pig, pork, poultry, whatever the case may be. We have so many birds, so many species, of course, which are around the world. And of course it has originated in China. So the new revisions, of course, is that they were originated in China, according to the CIA new revision. So I don't know. I can know for sure. So thus I have a doubt. I have a doubt. Thus meaning that if I have a doubt, I cannot rule out another possibility. Although I believe it was snakes primarily, but I cannot rule out another possibility. Fourth dimension to that trinity of theories surrounding coronavirus, COVID, is what I do know 100%. Is that before COVID, October, November 2019, I had predicted a coming international conflagration, aka World War III, where I ruled out I put a probability of nuclear weapons at 50-50. 50-50. Half chance. 0.5 probability wise. And bioweapon, it was two-thirds. Meaning 66.666 ad infinitum, because 1/3 is 33.33333. So there's like 9. Well, yeah, because if it's a third, you get 99.999%. So there's that's the paradox. Although when you add 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, it gives you 100. But when you divide them, that's a mathematical paradox. They don't add up to exactly. That's quite fun, mathematics. Yeah, I love mathematics. But that's basically what my trinity of beliefs on COVID. And the fourth dimension, I cannot rule out another possibility. What I do know for sure, before COVID, I predicted an international conflagration, made and created a workout training program system, designed, made and created to go to the World War III scenario, of which myself have concluded more than 372 sessions. Myself have made more than 372 sessions on my own created workout training program system, which requires no equipment. And house number 25 here on D. Ramsey, or 26, or 30, 40, 44, 33, 77, 93, 156, whatever. I guess each one of these houses being big here, I can split 50-50 with my anonymous friend. that we can do here. This one, 31, number 31, 31, perfect. Split half. Because now where I live is still small, but where I used to live, and I remember just moving because of that retrograde amnesia, memory loss, it was like a prison cell, moldy, full of mold. Like a prison cell and full of mold, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing on that, you know. So it's something which we gotta get doing, you know. Don't fall. There you go. So that's what I know, and what I know is my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, the DRT debt refusion theory. That's what I know, the DRT, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, of the Universal Exchange Unit. So that's what I know, the DRT, debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, which I'm now going to discuss, because it is important to discuss it. Paradoxically, although I'm financially struggling, stressed, my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, the DRT, we're going to now discuss, because it's the theory, you know, for the North American Collective, which can save us from paradoxically where we are now as a North American collective civilizational complex, as a North American civilizational complex, to get it on the do and to save us from the current public and financial situation and where we are now and where we have arrived. And that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get consequential about it and quite immediate, quite feel the urgency of the need to implement my D, debt, R, refusion, and T theory, my debt refusion theory. So I'm gonna explain it now. And why do I make that statement is that because during COVID, the coronavirus, our interest payments have quite increased by, gotta recheck the numbers, because there might be some mismatching of the numbers of between what CBC or other news outlets projected and the official Bank of Canada. But when it comes to the mathematics, it usually should be pretty similar. So there's a revision. The major point is that to be made, that is, of the numbers. But of course, the main premise is that due to the coronavirus, COVID, and other factors, during COVID we paid record interest on the public debt. Record interest on the public debt. We paid record interest on the public debt, right? So these mathematical financial principles apply because our GDP didn't concordially increase, and we didn't have mass FDI, foreign direct investment, mass FDI, foreign direct investment. Because of that, because we didn't have mass foreign direct investment, because of that, we're gonna have to, of course, cut and reduce some spending. And already I've seen some major layoffs in the public coming, even announced by the Carney administration. King is absent, go change some diapers. And of course, because the Concordium, that's we gotta get, the firefighters gotta get on that rock and roll for the firefighters. And because of that, we're gonna have to reduce and cut. It's time for the Republic. Dragon on, stand in formation. And of course, we need to get the DRT, debt refusion theory, and we need to consequently, of course, be rapid about the implementation, of course, of the DRT, the debt refusion theory, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, the DRT, the debt refusion theory. So basically, for the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE, we gotta have it, and we gotta be implementing it about it, and That's what we gotta get doing on that, and so we gotta get doing on the go, So here we are. The DRT, debt refusion theory, explains. So basically, due to the fact that our interest has increased so much, and the mathematical financial principles is that we have to reduce the budget. And already I've seen some mass layoffs, I think in Immigration Passport Canada, just 3 days ago, during the weekend, Passport Canada layoffs, and the public services. So we're gonna have to additionally even do some more cutting because of that. And of course, why are we gonna cut? Uncle Carney, working banking finance, the principles apply for an individual. If an individual's interest amount increase in just a few years and short amount of time, of course the individual also has to cut and reduce the spending. Maybe stop smoking cigarettes, stop going out to the movies, stop X, stop Y, stop Z. So the same principles apply from the public. The mathematical financial principium apply in the public and in the private. So basically, of course, because they apply in the public and in the private, that's how we gotta get that concordium. So because they apply in the public and in the private, we have to implement the DRT for both the public and the private. So that's what we have to do. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, of course, we're gonna be implementing it, and that's what we're gonna be doing here. See? Across the street. Oh yeah, look at that. That is nice there. I guess there's new developments. I will be close by the mountain here. You can want to sponsor finance. It will be close to my second home for me and my anonymous friend. Avaldra Alexander Mandelaris, 514-963-5737, 514-963-5737, 514-963-5737, I guess. I'll be so close by my second home here. I'll be very close. So I'm gonna now explain the DRT, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange. That's what we gotta be doing, and that's what I will be doing on that, and that's how we're gonna consequently look at that beautiful skyscrapers. All the construction workers, I need you for building the Forgotten Goddess Temple. Forgotten Goddess Temple. Gotta give some salutation to the firefighters. The Forgotten Goddess Temple, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the part of the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, also to build the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergent community, and the House of the Dragon, Crimson, Scarlet, Crimson. Red. Scarlet and crimson are shades of red. House of the Dragon. Nobody's born a dragon, not even myself. Took blood, sweat, and tears to change my surname A into an O, so that you know. DRT, debt refusion theory, there's no other solution, because the mathematical financial principles, we're going to have to do additional cuts. Uncle Carney, we're going to cut what the RCMP needs to become the Republican Canadian Police, part of the Dragon Army, SSD Legionx, SSD's Total Security, Total Service, Total Defense, on my new 911 North American Total Security, Total Service, Total Defense protocols. And of course, the other ones, the public, the other ones, the public spheres, and we gotta get doing for that, and for the Dragon Army, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum. Gonna build it with it for and buy the DRT. So Uncle Carney, what are we gonna cut? The police, the RCMP, the prisons, the the sanitation works. Sanitation workers. The sanitation workers, that's what we gotta get doing, man. The sanitation workers, the plumbers, and that's what we gonna get doing, man. On the go and on the night. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, that's what we're gonna get doing. So we're gonna implement the DRT, debt refusion theory. That's how we're gonna get implemented. And we're gonna get on that goal for the creation of the universal exchange unit, the UE, the universal exchange unit, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that, you know. We're gonna be implementing the DRT, the debt refusion theory, and that's what's gonna save us from the Concordium, the debt refusion theory. That's what's gonna save us on the Concordium, you know. The Concordium. So the DRT, we're gonna have to implement it. There's no other way. We're gonna have to cut so much we're gonna have to cut, so much we're gonna have to do. There's so much we're gonna have to do, man. We're gonna have to cut a lot of public services, a lot of other services. We're gonna do it, and that's how we're gonna get doing on that, and gonna get on the go, you know. So here I'm gonna give some of that trash here, and that's what it is. And gonna go up, turn your heads left and right, and we're gonna go all the way to the mountain. We are the mountain already at the top, not yet at the top, but we're gonna get there, and we're gonna discuss the DRT. So we're gonna enter by this side. Here go nurses, and nice car there, caramel-like. So we're gonna implement the DRT. The debt refusion theory has to be implemented. Uncle Connie, what are we gonna cut? What are we gonna reduce? Which services in the public? Those pick up the garbage, the sanitation. We're gonna take. My DRT theory includes in it monetary integration theory. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt, all the public and the private debt. So my debt, your debt, our debt, their debt, whatever the case may be of the debt that one has. So all the debt, public and private, we're gonna refuse it, convert it into US dollars. My $10,000, which I have to the RBC, yours, all the public private debt of Canada, it has to be implemented simultaneously, because both Canada and the United States were in a very similar financially precarious situation of this point of near collapse. It could happen today. The stock market could crash, and we could have a public private financial collapse. It can happen today. It can happen today. It's on the horizon, and those are possibilities which can occur. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, convert it into US dollars. That money we're gonna add it to the US dollars. To the US dollar, to the US public-private debt. That number is going to be the initial money supply for a new central bank. Because remember, in my DRT theory, is integrated. In my debt refusion theory is integrated monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory, which was implemented in the European Union. So the Europeans, they implemented. And here you can breathe. The air so fresh now. Feels so good. You can clean your lungs, because I gotta clean myself, I guess, before I help somebody else clean, and it's always something which I gotta be on the mind for. And so we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, convert it into US dollars. All that money is gonna be converted into US dollars. My eye. There's something like a little black bug or something again. Last time, remember in the video, I had to be eaten my right eye now. Last time you see it in the camera, in the eye of the camera, and it got eaten, the little black bug. Again. Get that goddess, and that's my favorite skyscraper, the pyramid. I'm gonna build the pyramid house of the dragon together. Nobody's born a dragon. Pledge allegiance to our families, part of the river, part of the beauty of the Montreal island here, metropolis, and I'm gonna keep going all the way to the top, discussing the DRT and singing some of that rock and roll. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, So my 10,000, your 10,000, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all the public and the private debt, we're gonna take it and we're gonna refuse it. So my dollars, your dollars, their dollars, all the public private debt, all that money is gonna be converted into US dollars, and we're gonna add it with the US. All that money is gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank, whatever we call it. We're gonna create a new currency called the UE, based on the value of the US dollar. U, universal, E dot, exchange, U dot unit. U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The UE, the UE, the UE. The UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit. The universal exchange unit. Just like they did in the European Union, but by taking the public-private debt. We're gonna set an interest rate level of 10% maximum. So we're not gonna be able to have more than 10% interest concorded, put into place after implementing this theory. So it's going to be less than 10%, but maximum 10% on all loans thereafter. On all the credit cards, is going to be the new financial standard. Law procedure 10%. It could be 3.33, 1.56, 6.1, 9.3, 7.7. Below 10%. That's going to be a new financial principle. We have to do it. We're on the verge of a public financial collapse. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. That's how we gotta get doing with that. So that's why we have to implement it along this beautiful route. Beautiful little bit of white flowers here. I wonder if there can make something to boil them with that, and if we can boil them on the go. But we go up now in the mountain, and we gotta get a little bit of that confluence, and some, I think that's red. Somebody wearing my favorite colors, not just my favorite, but somebody else's. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, the DRT, the DRT, the debt refusion theory, the DRT, debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. We're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to create the UE, the universal exchange unit, to get it on the go, and to get it on the new, to get it on the, for the bakers, for the butchers, for the doers, for the nurses, those there, daycare workers, changing diapers, train conductors. Oh yeah, this feels good. Gotta turn my head sometimes to come on the bike paths fast, come so fast. Sometimes when the bike's here. So this is the main road here. So you gotta be careful, because sometimes the branches fall, like this branch. So that's why I let people know. See, branches like this, they fall. So you gotta look up. I have it on camera. The other day it fell, but I was about 44 meters. So he fell to my right side a few weeks ago. He wasn't that close, but he wasn't that far. So just if you come here, just be careful. If you hear cracks, look up and be ready to move fast, rock and roll fast. And that's how we gotta get doing with that. And here we're gonna discuss the debt refusion theory, the DRT, for the creation of the universal exchange unit, and that's how we're gonna get on the rock and roll with that. And here we are, for the change through pain, dragon became dragon, and that's how we gotta get thinking about today as I live it for today, but with hope for tomorrow, because I live carpe diem it every day, since I died of COVID. That's how I live it, and that's how I gotta. Isn't that a beautiful rock? Isn't that beautiful? I don't know, just how it's shaped. Mother Nature, great artist and scientist. Isn't that beautiful? It's just gorgeous, man. To me, at least, for my, I don't know, just something I like about it. See? Rocks, natural rocks, I guess. So that's what we gotta get doing on that. We gotta get on the go and gotta get for the butchers and for the bakers and the nurses, the doctors, the plumbers, electricians, firefighters, the DRT. I'm gonna explain again. The DRT, we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. All the public private debt of Canada, including my 10,000, we're gonna convert it into US dollars. We're gonna add it with the US dollar, and we're gonna create a new currency called the UE, Universal Exchange Unit. The UE, which is gonna have the value of the US dollar, the United States dollar. With that money, we're gonna rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild the bridges, beautiful yellows. Now I got a thing for yellow flowers. We're gonna rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild bridges, and construct those 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. In case of a thermonuclear war, gotta watch for branches here when they fall, you know. So we gotta get doing with that. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt. We're gonna convert it into US dollars, you know, to US dollars. We're gonna build those 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels. In case of a thermonuclear war. In case of a thermonuclear war. 44, Canada and United States joint, stacked them with food and inspired and based on the Cheyenne Mountain, you know. Cheyenne Mountain. The Cheyenne Mountains is a NORAD headquarters built in the 50s, you know, so that's how we gotta get doing, you know. So the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, and of course the other one being the Montreal Underground Village, which spans kilometers, mostly built for the winters, which I guess from what we know they were tougher, harder, longer before in the 20th century. Now they changed, you know, in the past years, but a pretty rough winter, some would say. I don't mind. You see me coming here filming is being me on the floor on the fauna and the snow and the storms, sometimes accompanied by a few other people, sometimes in the snowstorm solo. So we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get on that love, you know. So here can I discuss the DRT, the debt refusion. Do you see that one there? That branch is dangerous there. That branch is about to fall. See that one really looks kind of dangerous. That one really is in danger zone there. See how that one is. So that's why I let people know, hey, it's not a joke. You see my videos, you come here, eventually you might stop and there's wind, or see that was a branch that fell, right? See that how it is there? Two branches, one and the second one. So that is a branch that cracked from above. It somehow got stuck like that. See how it got stuck perpendicularly. Oh, there's the hawk. That's a hawk there. See, I saw my hawk. Even my hawk warned me, hey, you gotta get going, buddy. You know, you gotta keep it in motion. The more speed you get, the velocity, the more safe you are. The more safe you are, right? That's what the hawk says. The more safe you are with that. So that's the hawk, see? I know by the way they fly, and kind of because he was close there and it was kind of white and black, and they have a red head. So that is dangerous there. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, is the solution, or something similar which resembles it. We're gonna have to do that, implement the DRT with the creation of the UE and the implementation of my DRT theory. We're gonna be able to mass finance citizens for fitness as well, because it's great for mental health. Build those 44 tunnels and finance citizens tourism, because another greatness for health and mental health. See those branches also about to fall, collapse. So if it's very windy, they might come this way. Sometimes we toss them over, myself included. I see so many branches are here sometimes, and people toss them, and I toss them, and public workers toss them to the side from this trail here. So we're gonna be doing lots of good. We're gonna building the infrastructure rebuilding, building the 44 tunnels, of course laying the foundations for the 2 complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, meaning the Dragon Army, aka the North American Integrated Dance League. North American Integrated Dance League, you know. That's all we gotta do. North American Integrated Dance League, you know. The Dancing Goddess Army for the environment, environmental education and action. Environmental education and action. Environmental education and action. And of course the Dragon Army to be for total SSD, security, service and defense, security, service and defense, security, service and defense. And that's what we're gonna be doing for SSD, security, service and defense, you know. Total security, total service, total defense for the 63, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. Do the math. I'll do it with you. 10 plus 3 plus 50, 10 plus 50 plus 3, 3 plus 50 plus 10. Same thing, 63, 63, 63, in whatever order you want to place them. For the North American Collective and all who want to join us, it could be expanded, include Mexico, you know. The DRT, the creation of the UE, fundamentally binational, just like the NHL, NBA, and other institutions, NORAD. And you know, we're going to get to that French because we love la province. But that's what I wanted to say with that. I'm grateful, thankful once again. My rent's paid and electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and I'm getting a bit on the hungry side, so I guess I'm gonna hydrate a lot. I guess I just had a piece of leftover food, not too much. I guess I shoulda, coulda, woulda. I guess I'm gonna increase when I feast when I get back home on a budget, because I'm financially stressed. But I guess I'm gonna be able to make myself some pasta, make myself a little bit of pasta, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And so we're gonna get doing for the love, man, to get it on the lover side of things. And here we got for the butchers, the youth. See, that means plantation. That means that's being done, labor and work, of course, for the replantation, which of course requires some brains and muscles. So here, please don't pollute. You see me for a long time. Gotta get on that work, and gotta get it for the LOVX and for the truckers on the road, firefighters, electricians, and all those, you know, involved in the production, distribution of food, and all those across the collective. The North American Civilizational Complex, I guess. We're gonna go change all the way to the top. It's getting a bit on the hot side. Well, not that hot, because I'm in the shade, but when you hit the sun, it kind of gets to you a bit. So I really need to go drink water. Need to get a big hydration, and need a big hydration there. I wonder if there's fishes here. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, and that's what we're gonna get doing for that, you know, the DRT, the transfusion theory, and that's what we have to do, you know, gotta get it on the go, you know. So that's something here which we got to do in the collective, you know. So this is like a beautiful type of wild setting here. This is constructed new, so this is all new. It's actually this year, a few months ago, was opened. This used to not be here. This whole plateau, or it's like a trail made of, you know, public workers. But it's of course something which is kind of pleasant. I would just want some color, you know. But I understand paint can harm the environment, but I guess I love bright colors, so it would be something like orange, bright orange, something red, purple, something here, you know. I don't know, some color. And these rocks are kind of cool how they're set up. So that is kind of cool with that. And something which we have in common here in the North American Collective. We got to get it on the do with that. And I got to appreciate the embellishments, because it's not just my headquarters, my home, my second home, Mount Royal, but it's my second home, Mount Royal. But it's public, right? It's not just my second home and the de facto official headquarters of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. Headquarters of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. Headquarters of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, you know. So that's what we gotta get doing with that. Headquarters of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom. I wish I could paint these stairs, but I'll satisfy with painting the benches. Painting the benches, you know. That'll be something which I gotta do, and painting the benches, and that is something which I gotta be manifesting and I gotta be doing. And hey, I guess we made it once again on this 27th of May. Hydro-Quebec workers, firefighters, plumbers, electricians. King is absent. I'd marched already more than the generals of NATO today, and I've still got to get back to my headquarters here in steel-toe boots, I guess, work boots, auctioning the old ones, the new ones, and these are military grade work boots, so it's more alloyed of steel aluminum, something like that, like an alloy. And here we got it, man. For the construction workers, I guess I gotta put I guess I can let my main out, sing some rock and roll at the top, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta get doing on the go, and so we gotta get doing for now, you know. So here we are, man. Getting on the go, and you know, so here we are on the appel Privee, you know. Montreal, we're gonna have to switch it to that French, let that main out for the rock and roll, and gotta get those tulips, man. Here, the Publik workers last year, it was a different color, but now it's kind of doing. It's kind of good there, you know, to get it on the XYZ, and that's what it is, you know, for the XYZ, and get it there, you know. Yeah, here it is, man. Here it is. Oh yeah, made it again and again and again. I love these tulips, man. Nice tulips there. Just the whole plateau. Kind of good with that, and that's what we gotta get doing on that, man. On the do, you know. Yeah. Look at that. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? You gotta get it, man. And smell a bit. Oh yeah. They made it again. Here it is. It smells so good. Last time there was something else, but every year it changes. I kind of like it how it's set up, you know, like this. Gotta give a credit to the Publik workers to get it on, and that's how we gotta get it for them, and for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, you know. On this day here, we're gonna go change it up and get it on the go, because we're on the mobile, you know. It's the total mobile defense force. That's what it is now, and that's what it is for now, man, you know.
You're pretty good at that.
We're doing a bit of stretching here. I love coming here, you know, we gotta get it on the do, and that's how we gotta get it, man. Just love it, you know. Just love coming here. And I take this off. Oh yeah, look, that's the hawks there. See the hawks? Those are hawks. By the way, they fly there. See, they never flap their wings. Hawks. Those are hawks. See how they fly? Hawks. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4, and then there's the 5th there, kind of went out from the click, and there's 3 more. See there? Hawks. Hawks birds, you know, that's what it is with that. And there's the hawk, he's coming. See, they're hawks. Those are hawks. H-A-W-K, see? Boop, boop, boop. See that one's there? So that's my totem bird. My favorite bird and my totem bird, the hawk. See how they circle? They don't flap their wings. But they're predatory birds, you know? See, they're circling. That's how they're going. Because their home is here, right? But it's a very rare occasion. See, that's the one there. Sometimes they hover above here. So it's a special, there are several species of hawks, but these ones, of course, are North American hawks, right? Yeah. They're predatory birds, though. You gotta watch it. Coming down, peck your eggs, man. Peck your eyes. There it is. No, that's a plane. That's what it is with that, man. So I'm happy. Saw the hawks. Gonna do some hawks on the toes. You go. Let's go. D-R-A-G-A-N. And we're gonna split a little bit on that French because we la belle province. And we're gonna, of course, do a little bit of. Gonna take. It's very hot, so I'm just gonna take some off because I got presents for. I got prepared for the weather to change to get more hot as I'm getting on the mountain. So I'm gonna steel toe down, and we're gonna go change. We're gonna switch a bit on the language because here we love the French side in Quebec, La Belle Province. So we're gonna continue the vlog in the wilderness, in the back of the mountain. That's why we got it. And oh yeah. So now I'm gonna put this down here and put my belt. Now I got shorts. That's pretty much.
Marcelo, tava bom o sorvete, hein? Fala aí. Tava? Foi melhor. Foi melhor esse?
Okay, let's rock and roll, man. You ready for the rock and roll? There we go. All right. There we go. Ready? Ready, ready? Let's go. French, que je viens de la belle province. On doit changer pour le français parce qu'on est dans la même province. Puis au Québec, Québécois, je vous invite à l'entraînement physique. On va faire un tour. On va faire de l'hydratation premièrement, c'est super important. Mais qu'on s'hydrate en première place parce que là j'ai soif. Fait que, comme je disais tantôt, là, j'ai enlevé un peu bien sûr de mes souliers. Je veux dire mes habits, pas les souliers, mais les souliers sont corrects, là, mais les souliers sont lourds, c'est des souliers de travail, d'armée militaire, mais j'ai enlevé ce qu'il y avait de poids extra, tu sais, poids additionnel, tu sais. Ça veut dire que la manche longue, tu sais, la manche longue, là, ça a été fait plus chaud, là, fait que on y va, je vais aller m'hydrater. Bien sûr, vous voyez ici, là, c'est quelque chose que moi-même je dois le faire, puis aller sur la montagne. Ma deuxième maison ici, j'adore venir, puis j'adore chanter en arrière. C'est ça que je vais souvent dans la forêt en arrière, plus que d'autres choses, là. Parce que les chemins principaux, tu sais. Et je venais m'hydrater, puis j'admire toujours là, comment ils ont bâti, hein, pour pouvoir boire ici, là. Tu sais, les ingénieurs qui ont bâti, les travailleurs qui ont construit l'eau potable là, pour s'emmener jusqu'ici, jusqu'à la montagne, c'est quelque chose. Oh, yeah. Fait que merci les travailleurs qui l'ont bâti, j'apprécie ça bien gros. C'est grâce à vous que je peux m'hydrater puis continuer puis faire mon entraînement en méditation en géopolitique indépendant, mais d'une manière quand même plus dans le positif, tu sais, plus dans le positif, hein, parce que sinon, ben, c'est sûr que c'est dans le négatif un peu, mais pas dans le négatif, mais si j'ai pas de l'eau à m'hydrater, c'est sûr que ça peut, ma santé, ça peut l'affecter. Fait que merci encore une fois. Bon, fait que ça a été ça. Fait qu'on va continuer, on va aller en arrière de la forêt, bien sûr, dans la forêt profondément. Puis on va chanter un peu de rock and roll, comme qu'on fait bien sûr dans nos jours, bien sûr, à chaque jour quasiment, mais c'est ma deuxième maison. Fait que c'est des choses, bien sûr, que moi-même, je dois le faire si je le fais pas, mais ici, c'est une bonne place pour chanter parce qu'il y a un écho. Il y a un écho, ça donne toujours du bien. C'est ça, c'est juste... Mon seule inquiétude, c'est parce que j'ai mon désinfectant de main, là. C'est sûr qu'on pousse la porte, fait qu'il y a des germes, des bactéries qui peuvent être présentes sur la porte, là, mais j'ai mon antibactérien avec moi ici. C'est quelconque pour le faire dans l'entraînement physique, puis c'est quelque chose que je le fais moi-même. Fait que je dois dire, hey, ça c'est des éperviers. Vous voyez en haut, là, je le vois pas bien, mais ça c'est des éperviers, ça. Tantôt, j'en ai vu pas mal. En anglais, c'est hawks. La manière qu'ils volent dans les airs, ils flattent pas souvent leurs ailes. Vous voyez, ils planent comme... C'est des éperviers. Ouais, celle-là, c'était des éperviers. Tu vois, ça, c'est des éperviers, ça, en haut. Tu le vois là-bas, là? Eh, regardez ça. Ça, c'est les éperviers du Mont-Royal. C'est une grosse famille d'éperviers en haut. Vous voyez ça? Ça, c'est des éperviers. Regardez ça. Des éperviers, ça. En anglais, c'est hawks, ça. C'est des oiseaux prédateurs, par exemple. Il faut faire attention, là, si vous les appelez, là. Oui, c'est les éperviers, ça, en haut. Et voilà, pac! Ils sont beaux, hein? C'est mon oiseau préféré, hein, mais faut faire attention, là, parce qu'ils volent. Tantôt, j'en ai vu 8. J'en ai compté 8 en haut, 7, 8. De la manière qu'ils flattent, leurs ailes, c'est comme planétaire, comme un plan. Et voilà, celle-là en haut, l'épervier, qui vole là, comme ça. Il va s'en venir me voir. Pop, pop, pop. Et voilà. Vous voyez, il ne flatte pas les ailes. Il fait juste planer comme... Ils sont blancs, noirs. C'est une grosse famille. C'est mon oiseau préféré en haut. Des fois, c'est les voir, c'est rare. C'est une occasion spéciale quand même. C'est ça. Merci. Et on va rentrer dans la forêt le plus tôt possible. Par là, il y a une entrée, bien sûr, que je puisse rentrer. Fait que je vais rentrer par là, je vais me tasser du chemin. Fait que... Parce que les cyclistes, ils ont leur bar ici, tu sais. Ils ont leur bar ici. Fait que c'est des choses, bien sûr, que moi-même, je dois faire ici, tu sais. Ça passe sur le côté ici, là. Ça passe. C'est comme la moitié, il n'y a pas de séparation, là, mais tu sais que c'est des normes non écrites, là, quand même. Mais tu vois, moi, à cause de l'Asperger's, l'autisme, mes fixations sur certains points, comme mes oiseaux préférés, puis la manière que je bouge un peu, ou que je discute les choses, c'est sûr que c'est pas... C'est hors norme, tu sais, c'est des choses, bien sûr, qui font de la méditation, puis c'est sûr, bien sûr, qu'ils ont des points de convergence. Il faut toujours bâtir des ponts, hein? Des ponts avec les neurotypiques, parce que vous êtes la grosse majorité, 99,56. Nous, on est moins d'un pourcentage, hein? Moins 0,5%, on est 0,44% de la population, hein? Qui sont Asperger's, qui sont autistes, c'est l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, c'est l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. C'est l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, l'Asperger's. C'est des choses comme ça que je dois le faire. Puis c'est des choses que je dois le faire moi aussi. Fait que c'est des choses. C'est des choses moi-même qu'il faut que je le fasse quand je suis ici. C'est des choses, bien sûr, que je dois le prononcer de cette manière. Puis je vais discuter un peu. Je ne vais pas rentrer trop dans l'Asperger's, mais il faut que je le discute parce que c'est ça que je suis. Je fais partie de la communauté des neurodivergents et c'est ça qu'il faut que... C'est dans la communauté, bien sûr, que je dois le faire moi-même, de cette convergence et de cette analyse, bien sûr, que je dois le faire moi-même. Et c'est bien sûr que je dois le dire dans sa répétition. Puis c'est quand même simple, tu sais. C'est simplement, qu'est-ce qu'on est, puis qu'est-ce qu'on doit faire dans cette convergence, d'avoir, bien sûr, de cette manière, un écureuil. Il saute, comment il saute, il s'en va. Je viens, je vais te rien te donner. Comme un écureuil, bien sûr, c'est quelque chose qu'il faut que je fasse moi-même dans cette convergence. Puis c'est des choses qui vont se passer. C'est des choses qu'on va falloir y avoir. Fait que c'est des choses comme ça qu'on fait dans cette conférence des choses, puis d'en avoir ici, sur la montagne, la deuxième maison, bien sûr, pour le faire. C'est une point de convergence. Oh, ben un autre. Hey, vous voyez ça, là? Ça tombe. C'est pour ça que j'avertis les gens ici. Rentrez pas dans la forêt ici si vous connaissez pas le chemin. Puis soyez prudents parce que vous voyez en haut, ça tombe, les arbres, les branches plutôt tombent. Et pas de. Ici, là, vous n'êtes pas en sécurité. Hein? C'est pas la même chose ici dans la forêt. Fait que des fois, là, moi-même, j'ai même capté ça sur la caméra, là, un couple de semaines, plusieurs fois. Mais bien sûr, là, quelle belle fleur ici dans le coin. Et regardez ça. On a des petites belles fleurs roses ici. Mais c'est bon, ça, c'est bien beau. Ben, attention, ça, vous voyez là, qu'est-ce que je viens de dire? Checkez ça. Ça, là, il va y avoir du vent, ça va craquer cette branche-là. Cette branche-là est à veille de tomber, il y a un danger ici. C'est comme celle-là, l'autre aussi, mais celle-là, là, ça tombe, ça vient du vent, puis ça tombe sur nous, quelqu'un. Ça, j'avais dit toujours les gens dans mes vidéos. Vous voyez, plusieurs fois depuis bien des années, là, parce que ça fait des années, puis dans d'autres vies antérieures, moi je suis mystique, je connais mes vies antérieures un peu. Des fois j'ai été né homme, des fois j'ai été né femme, fait que en étant né homme, femme, ben maintenant vous avez le 50-50 et c'est quelque chose comme je dois le faire moi aussi. C'est quelque chose que je dois faire moi aussi de cette convergence, d'avoir des luttes. Avec l'Asperger's, l'autisme, c'est sûr que ça n'a pas été facile. J'ai pas beaucoup d'amis. J'ai perdu beaucoup d'amis. Maintenant, je me fais des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Avec bénéfice seulement, les amis. Hein? Amis avec bénéfice seulement, tu sais. Des amis avec bénéfice seulement. That's it, that's all. Des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Puis c'est des choses, bien sûr, que moi, je dois le faire aussi. Fait que j'ai des amis avec bénéfice seulement. Là, je cherche rien de sérieux. Prêtez allégeance, les gens, vous êtes famille. Soutenez mon rêve. Le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, c'est fondamentalement un appel pour. Il y a un partenariat public-privé, un PPP. Puis je suis bien ici. Quand je viens ici, je suis comme, waouh! J'étais de bonne humeur, puis chez nous aussi, parce que j'ai fini avec ma dépression. J'étais en dépression, là, j'étais suicidaire. Puis j'ai traversé le Canada en 2017, de côte à côte. Et j'ai utilisé le Canada de côte à côte. Et bien sûr, en traversant le Canada de côte à côte, ça a fait bien sûr que, en traversant le Canada de côte à côte, ça a fait bien sûr que je suis sorti de ma dépression. Je suis sorti de ma dépression, puis bien sûr, j'ai arrêté d'être suicidaire. D'être suicidaire, tu sais. Le suicide, être suicidaire, là, ça n'a pas été facile, la dépression. Je pensais que j'allais mourir. Je pensais que j'allais enlever ma vie. Je pensais que j'allais enlever ma vie. Ben, j'ai traversé le Canada en 2017. Cet événement, ça m'a fait établir un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, le Canada. Ça m'a fait établir un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, le Canada, c'est sûr. Ça m'a fait établir un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, le Canada, les Québécois, Québécoises, c'est de ma famille. Puis c'est des choses comme ça qu'il faut que je voie moi-même dans ce principe de Concordia où on est rendu sur la montagne, le Mont-Royal, là, à ma deuxième maison, mais c'est pas juste la mienne, ça m'appartient pas, tu sais, pas personnel, tu sais. Fait que l'autisme, mode fonctionnel, l'Asperger's, c'est pas une maladie mentale, on a des mutations dans le cerveau. Les Asperger, nous, partie de notre cerveau, il y a certaines mutations. Fait que grâce à ces mutations-là, ils font que on a de la misère dans certaines choses de la communication sociale, la manière qu'on est perçu. Ou tu sais, moi, je suis quelqu'un qui n'aime pas la violence, mais j'ai vécu moi-même mon trauma, ma violence. Et voilà, waouh! Champignons. J'ai vécu moi-même mon tronc, je me suis attaqué par surprise, je suis tombé, je connais ma tête, j'étais tout ensanglé, j'étais plein de sang, ensanglé, puis j'avais mon bras droit disloqué. J'étais allé à l'hôpital juif, ils m'ont recraqué, remis le bras, crac, en place, ils m'ont donné des médicaments, j'étais dans un petit coma, puis je m'en souviens juste, parce que j'ai l'amnésie rétrograde, la perte de mémoire, là. Je me souviens avoir déménagé, j'ai une petite place, comme une petite cellule de prison quasiment en sous-sol, puis il y avait beaucoup de moins de ça. Je m'en souviens avoir déménagé, j'étais en dépression suicidaire, puis en 2017 j'ai traversé le Canada, et puis depuis ce temps-là j'ai commencé à m'entraîner après ça. Puis mon travail vraiment en tant qu'analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, parce que c'est ça mon intérêt spécial, à cause que nous les aspects, on a ces intérêts spéciaux qui préoccupent notre routine du quotidien. Puis moi-même, c'est la trinité, l'entraînement physique, soit la danse et mon sport préféré, avec la géopolitique. Et bien sûr, la géopolitique, l'entraînement physique, la danse, la géopolitique. Et bien sûr, l'entraînement physique, la danse et l'entraînement physique et le rock'n'roll. Fait que depuis 2017, j'ai bien du travail fait de ça. J'en compose des chansons au quotidien. Puis je m'entraîne. J'ai perdu entre 80 et 93 livres. 80 et 93 livres. Et surtout des fois quand je viens ici, j'ai bien sûr des choses du compromis, bien sûr, que je fais. Puis même moi-même, j'ai bien sûr des choses pour le faire dans ce collectif. Et bien sûr, il faut que je me tourne de la gauche à la droite. Et bien sûr, ici, hein, dans le sauvage, dans le sauvage, j'adore venir, puis bien sûr, dans le sauvage ici, tu sais, c'est des choses que moi-même, il faut que je fasse, tu sais, c'est dans la forêt, sur la montagne, puis bien sûr, c'est des choses, et voilà, ça, c'est pour ça que ça tombe, on dirait des cerfs, ça, hein, ça tombait d'en haut, ça, on dirait un de cerf. Fait que c'est pour ça que j'avertis les gens, parce que ça tombe d'en haut ici. Il y a du vent quand il y a du vent, mais ça tombe, tu sais. Fait que soyez prudents. On dirait des cerfs. Tu sais, des cornes d'un cerf, là, sont vraiment belles, je trouve. Vous pouvez pas les prendre ici, là, mais parce qu'on fait de la plantation, mais vous voyez, ça, c'est tombé d'en haut. Fait que c'est pour ça que je dis, il faut soyez prudents si vous venez ici, vous aventurez, vous voyez, plein de branches, là. J'avertis toujours les gens. Mais le plus de temps que vous passez ici, le plus vous êtes à risque et le moins vite que vous allez aussi. Fait que si vous décidez de vous aventurer d'un bout à l'autre, vous pouvez le faire, mais bien sûr, c'est quelque chose qu'il va falloir que vous soyez prudent à cause des branches. Toutes ces branches-là, des fois, c'est moi-même qui les tasse d'un bout à l'autre. Fait que juste la prudence, si vous voyez comme ceux-là, ils tombent. Fait que c'est ça qui est possible ici, qui peut se passer ici, dans la forêt. Salut! Ça va bien? Faites attention, des fois, il y a les branches qui tombent d'en haut.
D'accord.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui.
OK, je n'étais pas sûr, j'allais vous faire une traduction en anglais.
C'est pas la peine.
OK.
C'est tout droit le sommet?
Ben, ça dépend où vous voulez aller. Au sommet, il y a le sommet de la Croix, le sommet du Mont-Royal, le sommet... Ouais, plusieurs sommets.
Le sommet de la croix.
La Croix, ouais, vous pouvez aller par ici, mais moi, parce que je vais rentrer dans la forêt, fait que je vais vous diriger de la sortie pour aller pour le chemin principal que vous allez là suivre, ouais, parce que moi, je vais pas vraiment à la Croix, mais je vais aller... Vous voyez ces branches-là? Oui. Imaginez, là, ça tombe d'en haut ici. C'est le plus de temps que vous restez ici, le plus vous êtes à risque. Là, il n'y a pas de vent, mais des fois, il y a du vent qui peut sortir de nulle part. Fait que ça tombe d'en haut, là. Toutes ces branches-là.
La croix, c'est le sommet du Mont-Royal?
Oui, en théorie, oui. Vous savez qu'il n'y a pas aucun bâtiment par le décret de la loi de Montréal, l'île de Montréal, c'est qu'il ne peut rien avoir de plus haut que la croix. Les gratte-ciels, ça fait référence aux gratte-ciels. Oui. Fait que toutes les gratte-ciels que vous voyez, ils ne peuvent pas être plus hauts que la montagne, que le sommet de tout ça. Vous êtes de quel bout?
La Réunion.
L'île de la Réunion.
OK, vous n'êtes pas du Québec, OK.
Ah non.
La Réunion, oui, c'est les îles, la Réunion. Département français, je pense.
Oui.
Oui. Première fois au Québec?
Ouais.
Ah ouais, ok.
Deuxième jour.
Nice, bienvenue au Québec.
On est arrivé hier.
Ah ouais, ok. Ben, s'il vous plaît, juste manger des produits du Québec, s'il vous plaît, des saucisses, du fromage, du vin, toutes ces choses-là.
Le vin, il est du Québec?
On a du vin du Québec, on a des raisins au Québec, oui.
Vous avez
On a
goûté?
des aviculteurs, mais oui.
On a déjà commencé avec le fromage québécois.
Ouais, s'il vous plaît, ça c'est une demande que je vous fais, là. Fait que je vais vous diriger parce que moi je vais rentrer en profondeur dans la forêt. Fait que je vous dirige par là, puis la croix est pas loin. Je vais remonter avec vous, vous montrer. Puis moi je vais retourner par l'autre bord. Parce que si je vous montre par la forêt, vous allez vous peut-être perdre. Parce qu'il y a plusieurs croisées du chemin. Moi c'est comme chez nous ici, là. Fait que je suis pas un guide officiel, mais. OK, fait que la croix, vous allez trouver votre croix par là, ici, à la gauche. Il y a le crucifix,
En
la
vrai,
croix.
c'était bien indiqué, mais après...
Ouais. La croix des Romains. C'était comme ça qu'il y
C'est
a...
parce que c'est le sommet, c'est pour ça qu'on voulait y aller.
Ben, c'était la manière que les Romains...
Il tuait les gens. Hein. Allez, bonne journée.
Salutus Imperius Romanum Mundacus. C'est du latin, ça. Vous savez, à Montréal, c'est Concordia Salus. La devise, Concordias Salus, c'est du latin. La devise, c'est en latin, comme l'Empire romain. Mais ça fait référence en français, ça veut dire la santé par le bien-être. Concordia Salus. Je parle le latin, c'est pour ça. Bye bye. Bon, fait que c'est ça, comme je dis, bien sûr, ces gens, ces concitoyens, c'est mieux qu'ils sortent par là, par le bout, là. Puis ils voulaient voir voir la patente, là. La patente, là. Crucifix, la croix, le Mont-Royal. Moi, j'ai mon pape, le soleil, puis mon Jésus, ben c'est pas mal rock'n'roll. À la place de l'église, ben moi c'est plus le rock'n'roll, mais moi j'ai un côté mystique spirituel, là. Dieu, déesse, déesse, Dieu, mais j'aime un peu le folklore du Québec, tu sais, avec le pacte avec le diable, là, pour bâtir avec les coureurs de bois un peu, mais c'est ça que ça l'a fait dans cet événement qu'on est rendu ici, mais bien sûr c'est... Bon, ça fait... Ben, c'est pour ça que j'aime les guider dehors ici, parce que là, ils ne vendent pas trop, là, mais vous n'êtes pas en sécurité si vous ne connaissez pas le chemin ici. C'est pour ça qu'il y a des branches, là, puis je m'inquiète, il va falloir qu'on mette plus d'avis là, aux entrées dans les places. Vous voyez ça, là? Ça, c'est tombé d'en haut, ça. Ouais, cette branche-là, imaginez, ça, c'est tombé, là. Fait que je vais pitcher l'autre bord. Ça, c'est tombé peut-être sur le chemin, quelqu'un l'a tassé, fait que moi, je l'ai tassé encore un peu plus. Parce que ça tombe, ça niaise pas. Surtout quand il y a de la tonnerre. Hier, il y a eu la tonnerre. Hier, dans ma vidéo, vous pouvez voir que ça a commencé à avoir de la tonnerre. Là. Ben, puis ça a commencé, imaginez ces branches-là, elles tombent. Ça, ben, à moins que ça soit un enfant ou sur un chien, pareil, même sur un citoyen aîné ou n'importe qui aussi, là, ça tombe dans... Quand même, ça peut être dangereux. À quelle vitesse, de quelle hauteur aussi. Ça, c'est des calculs mathématiques, je peux pas le faire parce que je ne sais pas exactement l'hauteur. Si c'est plus haut, ben si ça dépend aussi. Hein. Ça, c'est plus technique un peu. Je pourrais calculer si j'aurais plus d'informations, mais à cause de l'Asperger, quand même, j'aime les mathématiques, je peux dire. Là. J'aime les mathématiques. Puis c'est ça qui est ça. Bon, l'Asperger, c'est une condition de neurodivergence. Ça fait que notre cerveau, il y a des mutations. Fait que nous, on voit le monde différemment, d'une autre manière. On n'a pas les mêmes caractéristiques. Des fois, on peut être bizarre, étrange, et on peut avoir de la misère dans certaines choses qui ne sont pas de conséquences. Dans ces conséquences, on n'a pas de situation où c'est sûr que c'est par situation, là, je veux dire. Mais des fois, tu sais, la manière qu'on communique, on est différent dans la manière de la communication. On peut avoir certaines caractéristiques comme tel quel, répéter 2-3 fois la même chose, ou peut-être s'approcher trop proche des gens, des citoyens, tu sais, l'espace personnel, ces choses-là, comme des fois, tu sais, ces choses-là sont plus difficiles. Fait que c'est sûr que si, tu sais, les aspis, nous, on se rapproche à 2-3 pouces, là, à place de garder l'espace personnel d'1-2 mètres ou 2-3 pieds, tu sais, c'est sûr que quelqu'un peut se sentir intimidé, là, se sentir en sa sécurité ou se sentir à malheur ou pas se sentir de bonheur ou des choses de même. Tu sais. C'est ces choses-là, bien sûr, qui sont pour dire de cette manière, pour qu'on s'exprime dans cette situation de convergence, de le dire de cette manière, pour que ça simplifie, là, pour que, bien sûr, à cause de ces caractéristiques, ce ne sont pas des symptômes. Encore une fois, les symptômes, c'est pour une maladie mentale ou d'autres maladies. Là. C'est des caractéristiques parce que l'Asperger, les Aspi, c'est pas une maladie là, qu'on peut traiter avec des médicaments. C'est juste, nous, il faut nous le dire. Moi, il faut me le dire directement. Certaines choses, il faut me le dire directement. Et c'est des choses que je dois vivre avec. Et c'est ça. Puis je dois faire le plus possible pour avoir le plus possible de faire de la vie, d'avoir de la bonté, le plus possible d'être poli. Je suis quelqu'un qui aime poli, mais des fois, tu sais, les aspects, on peut être direct ou conséquentiellement direct ou direct ou de manière de dire des fois trop direct. On peut offenser certains gens. Ou, moi, je suis comme bien des aspects. Des fois, j'ai de la misère dans la société, mais sociale, avec les interactions sociales, ou à garder, maintenir des amis. Mais pour ça, je dis maintenant, mais juste des amis avec bénéfice seulement, s'il vous plaît. Prêter allégeance les gens, juste des amis avec bénéfice. Prêter allégeance les gens, juste des amis avec bénéfice. Prêter allégeance les gens, juste des amis avec bénéfice maintenant. Prêter allégeance les gens, vous êtes famille, c'est la chanson de rock'n'roll. Puis maintenant, je vais discuter mon rêve, puis fondamentalement, le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse, et fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public-privé pour bien sûr faire l'implémentation de la Trinité de théorie. C'est bien sûr la théorie, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, et bien sûr la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette principalement, et en offre en conséquence pour que je sois moi-même, que je mets ça sur la table, je veux dire, puis que je dis à cause de mes compétences, mes forces qui se trouvent dans la géopolitique. C'est un paradoxe que sur la table, je vous mets une théorie financière parce que moi-même, je suis financièrement stressé. Hein. Malheureusement, chez les Aspergers comme moi, le taux de chômage de sans-emploi est très élevé. Des fois, c'est 70%, là. 70-80%, là. C'est 7 sur 8 là, des aspects. C'est bien, bien élevé, encore une fois. C'est pas d'avoir un emploi à long terme. Le maintien de l'emploi, c'est parce qu'on est différent, fait que cette différence, ça nous met de côté dans certaines choses là, qu'on ne peut pas vraiment l'avoir de cette explication, de cette manière d'interaction qui peut être confondue avec une maladie mentale, ou peut-être une maladie mentale, c'est pas contagieux, là, il n'y a pas de contagion, là, l'Asperger, notre cerveau il est différent, fait que, à cause de ces mutations, on voit le monde différemment. On voit le monde différemment. On a certaines choses que je dois même moi faire pour l'envergure, puis pour le faire moi-même de cette envergure, puis moi-même dans cette force de l'être aspi, c'est d'avoir cette compréhension, puis ce dialogue toujours constamment, surtout après un certain temps ou immédiatement, avertir les gens que ces caractéristiques peuvent être bizarres un peu, c'est dû au fait que je vis avec cette neurodivergence qui est l'aspi. Je suis aspi. That's it, that's all rock'n'roll. La géopolitique, c'est mon royaume, mon intérêt spécial, parce que nous, on a des intérêts spéciaux. Et ces intérêts, ça préoccupe constamment notre quotidien, notre routine quotidienne, comme une routine rituelle. Ça se préoccupe en faisant qu'est-ce qu'on aime faire. Puis moi, bien sûr, c'est l'entraînement physique, la géopolitique, rock'n'roll. La danse, c'est mon sport préféré. Et l'entraînement préféré que je préfère, c'est la danse. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, il faut le faire. Il faut faire l'implémentation. On est en mode d'urgence. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution, mes chers Québécois et Québécoises. canadien, mais là, je parle le Québec, là, pour le français. Puis pour le français, mais moi-même, je dois faire un effort constamment. Moi-même, je dois faire un effort constamment. Moi-même, je dois faire un effort constamment. Si moi, je le fais pas, d'effort constamment, là, il faut que je le fasse, moi aussi, un effort constamment au français pour le faire, en tant qu'individu. Si moi, je le fais pas, puis je m'ostine, puis je dis, ben, je vais pas parler le français, ou je vais pas encourager des gens qui parlent, qui apprennent un peu du français, ben, ça veut dire que je fais pas ma part. En tant que citoyen, puis vous savez, j'ai la fleur de lys quelque part, mais là, j'ai le Canada. Canada, mais à cause que j'ai une blessure, la fleur de lys, il va falloir la refaire un peu plus gros, peut-être, là. La fleur de lys, mais j'ai le Canada ici. Moi, j'ai toujours mon drapeau. Sur moi, je me demandais, moi pas, quand je l'ai eu, ce tatouage-là, c'est Canada, même ça fait longtemps, peut-être plus, ben je m'en souviens pas vraiment. J'ai la misère à m'en souvenir, ma vie avant 9, 10, 11 ans, là, c'est comme un blackout. Là. En tout cas, qu'est-ce qui est important, c'est tout plus mon travail que j'ai fait depuis que j'ai sorti de ma dépression. Depuis 7 ans, depuis 2017, puis après ça, depuis que j'ai survécu la COVID en février 2020, je pensais vraiment que j'allais mourir. Là. J'ai eu la COVID, je me suis fait vacciner 3 fois. Puis pour ça, je demande de garder les protocoles de santé. Là, j'arrête, puis je discute de la TRD, je me concentre. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette québécoise, c'est la solution qui peut nous sortir d'où qu'on est rendu aujourd'hui en mode de crise financière publique ainsi que privée. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution, tu sais. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution, tu sais. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution. Il n'y a pas d'autre solution que la TRD de cette manière, de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est bien sûr cette théorie de la refusion de la dette qu'il faut qu'on discute évidemment et en profondeur. Je ne sais pas s'ils sont comestibles, mais regardez, là. Hey, les champignons, hein? Champignons sur le Mont-Royal, je me demande s'ils sont comestibles. Si on peut les manger, ça veut dire comestibles. Miam miam, peut-être pas, non, je sais pas. Écoutez, je sais vraiment pas, là. J'ai pas d'expertise. Moi, je suis un analyste et théoricien en géopolitique, artiste, athlète et philosophe, moitié-moitié, monsieur, madame, androgyne, vous savez bien, mais je me demande si, bien sûr, sont comestibles. Je sais pas, je suis pas sûr. C'est possible qu'ils soient, je ne sais pas, peut-être. Bon, bien sûr, pour le faire, bien sûr, pour le faire de cette envergure, pour en faire, bien sûr, pour le faire de la manière de cette planète qui a tellement de variétés de champignons. C'est-tu une de celles-là qui il y a vraiment du poison, c'est une de celles-là qui est vraiment bon à manger. C'est sûr, c'est deux extrêmes, là. Mais peut-être dans le milieu quelque part. Je sais pas, écoutez, j'aimerais ça en savoir plus sur les champignons. Quelqu'un qui peut, vous voulez m'indiquer, vous connaissez les champignons, mais on peut faire échange. Hein? Champignons, géopolitique, champignons. Fait que là, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, je vous l'explique. Fait que là, on est rendu à un point, bien sûr, point de crise. On est en crise des finances publiques ainsi que privées. Fait que cette crise-là, là, c'est à cause qu'on on a un surendettement de cartes de crédit. Et bien sûr, par paradoxe, parce que depuis février 2020, depuis la COVID, il y a une augmentation du coût de la vie. Même le gaz, là, en février 2020, c'était 93 cents. La moyenne, là, c'est 156,9 la moyenne. Fait que c'est plus que 70% là, d'augmentation. Fait que les salaires n'ont pas augmenté de 70% en moyenne. Ben moins de ça, tu sais. Fait que c'est ça le problème. C'est là que je fais les calculs mathématiques. Puis je dis, ben, je dois voir. Puis bien sûr, je sais bien qu'il y a bien des gens qui sont endettés dans les cartes de crédit. Bien, déjà, moi-même, j'ai 10 000 $ de dette à la Banque Royale. J'ai pas de carte de crédit moi-même. J'ai 10 000 $ à la Banque Royale. J'ai 10 000 $ à la Banque Royale. 10 000 $ de dette. Je suis pas en gros endettement, mais c'est quand même un 10,44% qu'on paye d'intérêt. Parce que c'est ça le problème, vraiment. C'est payer le paiement de l'intérêt sur la dette. C'est ça vraiment que se trouve... ça peut être problématique, en d'autres mots, l'intérêt qu'on paye. Fait que la TRD, c'est la solution pour les finances publiques ainsi que privées. Pourquoi je me prononce ainsi? l'écart est dû au fait qu'on est tellement sur le point d'avoir une crise financière. C'est possible qu'aujourd'hui, hein, ça commence à 3 heures de l'après-midi, demain matin, demain après-midi, comme dans les prochains jours, semaines à venir. C'est fort probable que ça se passe. C'est fort probable que ça se passe, ces choses-là. Et bien sûr, c'est fort probable que ça se passe. Bon, pour dire, bien sûr, dans ce point de vue, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, qui contient dedans d'elle la théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est la solution, quelque chose qui ressemble fondamentalement à ma théorie de la refusion de la dette, parce que je demande à mon oncle Carney, je dis aujourd'hui, ben, le roi il va donner, je vais analyser bien ça comme il le faut, parce que c'est ça que je fais l'analyse de la théorie en géopolitique. Qu'est-ce qu'il va dire, le roi Charles, excusez-moi, mais j'ai rien contre, mais les rois héréditaires, là, moi, ça ne veut rien savoir, personnellement. Les rois héréditaires, comme la devise de l'armée du dragon que je fais appel pour le fondement, pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, pour la sécurité, service et défense, basé sur mes philosophies, mais je dis, mais le roi est absent. Le roi, la dernière fois qu'il a fait un discours du roi de trône, c'est la reine Élisabeth. La reine Élisabeth. En 1977. Ça fait longtemps, là. Ça fait longtemps, là, de ça. Tu sais, imaginez-vous, ça va faire 50 ans bientôt, là. 1977, la reine de l'Angleterre, la dernière fois qu'elle l'a faite, la dernière fois, c'était en 1997. Ça va, ben c'est comme 48, 49 ans, c'est quel mois, là, il va falloir vérifier, mais ça peut être 48 ou 49, proche de 50 ans, là, la dernière fois, là. Pourquoi ça arrive? Ben c'est pas ouvertement dit, mais à cause de Donald Trump. Je suis pas un partisan, vous savez que moi-même, je fais appel à Donald Trump pour me combattre dans un combat de boxe depuis 2018, parce qu'il a fait l'erreur d'imposer des tarifs. Puis moi, je dis, bien sûr, fondamentalement, là, mon oncle Legault, là, l'Assemblée nationale, tous les partis politiques, d'autres champignons sur l'autre côté, ben c'est nous, là, en tant que Québécois, Canadiens, Québécois, notre intérêt principalement, je parle de la politique externe. Je parle de la politique externe, pas des choses domestiques, là. Je parle de la politique la diplomatie politique externe. Notre premier intérêt, fondamentalement, numéro 1 en première place, nous, là, le Québec, le Canada, les Québécois au Canada, Québécois canadiens, c'est d'avoir les meilleures relations économiques, financières, de sécurité, de défense culturelle et d'autres relations avec les États-Unis. Avec les 50 États, fondamentalement, c'est ça. Ça, c'est comme le symbole pi. Tu sais, le chiffre pi, le symbole pi mathématique, c'est pour la circonférence et le diamètre du cercle. C'est toujours 3,1416. 3,1416. C'est toujours 3,1416. 3,1416, ça continue 3,1415 et après ça continue à l'infini. Ça, c'est un constant. C'est une constance mathématique. Ça change pas. Fait qu'en géopolitique, c'est comme ça pour nous. Puis ça a été depuis bien longtemps. Puis ça l'est aujourd'hui. Puis ça va l'être. Ça va l'être, mes chers. Parce que notre géopolitique, puis est relié avec notre géographie, puis notre histoire, puis notre destin commun en tant que collectif de civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord. Donc ici, le Québec, on a fait ce grand compromis linguistique pour avoir la continuité de la paix, bien sûr. C'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je le fasse moi-même, tu sais. C'est quelque chose de moi-même qu'il faut que je le fasse de cette manière, puis c'est quelque chose qu'il faut que je le voie moi-même dans cette convergence de la géopolitique externe, interne, pour voir, tu sais, ici sur la montagne, mais je fais mes théories, puis je dois dire que, bien sûr, pour l'armée de la dragon, puis les institutions qui doivent se faire par un partenariat public-privé, on doit faire l'implémentation de ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Parce qu'on est en veille d'avoir un effondrement financier des finances publiques ainsi que privées. Puis c'est des solutions qu'il faut qu'on mette sur la table. C'est ça, je vous mets une solution. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000 de côte à côte. Et bien sûr, toute la dette publique-privée du Canada de côte à côte, on va faire de la conversion. Toute la dette publique-privée dans la devise des États-Unis. Hello. Guys, be careful. Sometimes the branches fall here, eh? Yeah, you see these branches, guys?
Yeah.
So just be careful. The more you stay here in the wilderness, the slower you go, the more you stay. Sometimes, now it's not that windy, but you see on the sides?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so there's, sometimes I toss them over. So just be careful. Just be careful, guys.
Thanks.
Bye, have a nice day. Ça, je leur ai dit, ben, à cause des branches, tu sais, s'il faut que cette aventure des branches qui tombent, là, pour pas qu'ils se fassent mal, tu sais. Les citoyens qui sont ici, mais c'est sûr que je dois les avertir en cause qu'il y a un risque, là. Tu vois, ces branches-là qui sont, ça est tombé, là. Fait qu'ici, ils vendent. Là, ils vendent pas tant, là, mais that's what it is, that's what it is. Puis c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je le fasse moi-même, puis il faut que je le fasse dans le consensus, là, pour le dire. Fait que la TRD, c'est la seule et unique solution. La seule solution. Ou quelque chose qui ressemble. Et quelque chose qui ressemble, hein? Quelque chose qui ressemble fondamentalement. Fait qu'on va prendre, parce que sinon il faut qu'on coupe, hein? Parce que la cause que durant la COVID, ça a tellement augmenté le montant d'intérêt qu'on paye, le montant d'intérêt qu'on paye sur la dette publique, ça a tellement augmenté qu'il va falloir qu'on coupe quelque chose. C'est ça le problème, c'est pour ça que je demande, parce qu'on ne peut pas soutenir ça. Il y a une disproportion à cause des programmes qu'on a dû implémenter durant la COVID et qu'est-ce qu'on a dû couper, qu'est-ce qu'on a dû implémenter pour soutenir la population, je veux dire, durant la coronavirus, la crise, là. Puis maintenant, il y a un autre variant, une mutation peut-être. On est à veille de voir qu'est-ce qui va se passer avec ça. Et bien sûr, j'encourage les gens à garder les protocoles de la COVID, l'hygiène publique, je me fais référence, ou à l'hygiène publique. Fait que, bien sûr, c'est quelque chose qu'il faut que je fasse moi-même dans cette envergure. C'est ici que je sois sur la table. Bien, je veux dire, j'ai une nouvelle table ici sur la montagne, puis je présente sur la table la TRD parce que je dis, mon oncle Carnet, qu'est-ce qu'on va couper dans le budget? On va devoir couper quelque chose parce que comme un individu, là, quand un individu, citoyen, il va falloir qu'elle, lui, elle coupe, là. Si l'intérêt augmente, puis le salaire n'augmente pas, le salaire, la moyenne, il a augmenté de 4,4% à 5 ans, là. Bien, vous voyez comment la dette publique du Canada a augmenté, puis l'intérêt, ça a sauté des fois par des milliards et des milliards et des milliards durant la COVID. Il faudrait vérifier les chiffres, là, mais en grosse partie, c'est quand même vraiment énorme en pourcentage. Fait que c'est sûr qu'on n'a pas eu d'investissement majeur externe au Canada, puis l'économie canadienne n'a pas tellement doublé, n'a pas augmenté de tant que 1%, 2%. On va falloir qu'on coupe quelque chose. Pour ça, je demande à mon oncle Carney, qu'est-ce qu'on va couper? Vous allez travailler dans les banques, dans les finances. On va couper quoi? La GRC, Gendarmerie royale, la sanitation, la santé publique, les services, l'armée, la défense nationale. Ça s'applique pour un individu aussi, hein? Mathématiquement, c'est le même principe. Fait que comme un individu doit couper, c'est la même chose pour le public. Qu'un individu va devoir couper. Fait qu'on va devoir implémenter la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, qui inclut la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait qu'on va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, toute la dette publique ainsi que privée de côte à côte. Mon 10 000 à la Banque royale le tien, on va faire la conversion dans la devise des États-Unis, puis parce que les États-Unis sont dans une situation similaire, puis c'est pour le collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, ma théorie, on va faire l'addition avec la dette publique privée des États-Unis. Toute cette dette publique privée des États-Unis, on va ramasser ensemble cet argent-là, ça va faire la création d'une nouvelle monnaie. Une nouvelle monnaie. Fait que toute la dette publique privée, ça va être fait l'addition avec la dette publique privée des États-Unis. On va faire la création d'une nouvelle monnaie appelée le UI. U point unité, point échange ou point universel. U point unité, point échange universel. U point unité, point échange ou point universel. L'unité d'échange universelle. Le UI. U point unité, point échange, point universel. L'unité d'échange universel. L'unité d'échange universel aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. On va mettre un taux d'intérêt de 10%. Ça va pouvoir être pas plus que 10 après ça. Ça pourra être 3,33, 1,56, 7,18, 4,18, 1,6, 9,3. Et bien sûr, en bas de 10. Par principe, avec cet argent-là, on va faire bien du bien commun. On va bâtir plus de centrales de l'Hydro-Québec. On va bâtir les 44 tunnels, 44 tunnels dans le cas d'une bombe thermonucléaire. On va faire investir dans la santé des gens, financer les gens au public, puis bien sûr faire de l'entraînement physique, soit faire de la danse ou faire de l'entraînement physique. L'entraînement physique que j'ai créé moi-même. Fait qu'on va faire bien du bien commun. En d'autres mots, du bien commun. Ici, on va pouvoir bâtir la pyramide de Maison Rouge du Dragon, le temple de la déesse qui danse et le Colisée du peuple impérial qui sera 11 fois plus. Donc, la Louisiana Super Bowl où mes 49ers ils ont perdu contre les Ravens dans le Super Bowl. Là. Fait qu'on va devoir faire bien du bien commun. On va financer les gens en entraînement physique, le tourisme, on va bâtir plus de centrales Hydro-Québec. On va bien sûr financer les gens à l'entraînement physique, financer les gens au tourisme et financer bien des choses dans le public. Financer bien des choses dans le public, financer bien des choses dans le public. Et pour le public tel que rebâtir l'infrastructure du collectif, les aqueducs, les ponts, bien sûr, c'est des choses qu'on va devoir faire dans ce point qu'on est rendu ici. Puis ici, ben, on peut avoir quand même du gymnase, là. Vous pouvez faire un couple de pompes, je pense, ici. Fait que on va faire des cadences, on va faire 44 pompes ici. On va faire, bien sûr, bien du bien commun avec la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Et bien sûr, c'est des choses qu'on va devoir faire dans cette théorie, dans cette phase d'où on est rendu aujourd'hui. Bien sûr, avoir proche d'une crise financière. On va établir l'armée du dragon sur la Ligue impériale du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord pour la SSD seulement, pour la sécurité, service défense, et la Ligue de danse qui danse pour danser pour l'environnement, bien sûr, pour l'éducation de l'environnement, puis pour le nettoyage de l'environnement. Bien sûr, on va faire bien du bien en commun. Fait qu'ici, le temple de la déesse qui danse, et c'est des choses qu'on va devoir faire en commun ici pour faire. Puis on fait un peu d'étirement, bien sûr, dans cette compagnie, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on fasse ici où on est rendu. Puis je vois qu'il y a un autre brick. Fait qu'on y va. On descend, on y va de la montagne, on y va go rock and roll, puis faire des cadences. Let's go for the cadence on the go. Ready, show me some of that rock, some of that roll. Let's go, get ready here. We're just gonna work out a little bit with some